I'll take a motion to open the meeting. Moved and seconded. All those in favor, Ricky?
Yes.
Barbara? Yes. Dan?
Yes.
Carol? 25 yeses. All right, the first part of the meeting is public comment, and that is the time when citizens have the opportunity to bring things forward to the board that may or may not be covered on this evening's agenda. Is there anyone who has anything they'd like to bring to the board's attention?
I would like to.
Perfect. So what we're going to do, we found with a meeting now, it's better if somebody wants to speak, if they stand up, because your voice projects a little bit better and it's able to pick you up.
Okay,
So
my
you can-
voice will probably project in. That's okay.
But just stand, state your name. And
All right. My name is Bert Langette, and I'm the Vice President of the Belgrade Lakes Association. And I would like to put on to do a presentation at the next available meeting. What we'd like, the town of Belgrade is slated to receive about $330,000 in ARPA, it's American Rescue Protection Act funds, and half to receive this year and another half in 2022, which is coming right up anyway. And these funds are to be used for very specific programs that must be spent by the year end of 2024. Stormwater runoff is one of the few places where we can use these funds. And we have 5 lakes that are affected by, in the town of Belgrade. And we have some 3 particular spots that we'd like to get worked on sooner rather than later. One being the town of Belgrade, the Peninsula Park down the village, the Center for All Seasons, and the town beach, we believe needs some work. There were some surveys done on all the lakes by the Southern Lakes Association, and they pointed out some areas that need work. And we would like to see the town conduct a comprehensive plan for utilization of these and see if we can have it ready certification in 2023. But if it could be on the agenda for the next meeting, we could do a presentation to talk more about this.
So I will say, agenda is every bit as heavy as this one.
Okay.
So I would say we're probably looking more first one in December where we could have some.
Okay.
And Anthony, would it be pertinent to have that at that meeting? Or I know that we have the intention of having a public hearing and gathering some
Yeah, so,
information from the
I mean,
public.
obviously that's sort of up to the board, but I do think the board would probably want to talk about a process for helping to have a dialogue with the community where we're educating them on what the allowed uses are, because they're pretty restrictive, and then getting feedback from the community on how they like to see those funds spent.
And one other thing we'd like to ask is for the boat ramps, where they're not controlled by the town, but we'd like to see the town push the state IFNW to work on those ramps to make them not creating as much stormwater runoff.
Okay.
So, yeah, so when you can put us on the agenda, that'd be great. And that's what I've got. Thank you.
You're welcome. I appreciate you taking the time to come before us.
Thanks.
So anyone else who has something that they'd like to bring to the select board's attention, potentially. Seeing none. Oh, and just a heads up for the folks that are participating remotely. If you drop down to the bottom of your screen, you'll have a spot where it says reactions. And if you click on the raise your hand, it's going to bring you up to the top of the screen so that I can see that you have something to say. So if there's no more public comment, we're going to move right on to old business. And the first item on old business is the approval of the October 19, 2021 select board meeting minutes. Motion made. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. That item is open for discussion.
I didn't see any bugs. Look at me.
Rick, anything from you? No? All right, seeing no discussion. Barbara?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Ricky?
Yes.
4 yeses, and Carol will have you abstain from this one because you weren't there for the meeting.
Yeah.
All right, 4 yeses, 1 abstention. All right, next up, we have discussion and consideration actually approval of the October 2021 select board meeting minutes. I'll take a motion.
Second.
Moved and seconded. These are now open for discussion. All right, seeing none. Dan,
Yes.
Barbara,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
all right, 4 yeses, and Carol. 4 and 1. All right, moving right along. Discussion and consideration of the 2022 town meeting. So the select board previously discussed deciding on November 9th. Actually, let me take a motion to open that. And second, now it's open for discussion. So the select board's been trying, if we are going to conduct the 2022 town meeting in a bifurcated event by secret ballot, and then we still have an in-person town meeting. And then the other option is to have a couple of folks that have weighed in via email, so I will read those emails in. The last time that the board took a vote on this, we were split 2 and 2. So now that we have a 5th board member, we decided to bring it back for that because we need a majority to decide how to move forward. So Town Clerk Mary Vogel previously reported that for all secret ballot referendum town meeting, all referendum questions must be finalized by January 19. A public hearing will be held no later than 30 days before the election day. If the election day was Saturday, March 19, the public hearing would have to occur no later than February 17. Absentee ballots will be available to voters beginning February 18. With a bifurcated town meeting, all secret ballot referendum questions will also need to be finalized by January 19. The public hearing on the referendum articles would occur by February 17, and absentee ballots would be available February 18. Articles to be decided on the floor of town meeting do not have to meet the January 19 deadline and can be worked on until the town report is sent to the printer. This is usually the first week in February, with the reports available to the public the first week in March. We did have some input from Jay Bradshaw, and he asked that we include this in this evening's meeting because he wasn't going to be able to make it. So he says, good morning. It's been my intention to virtually join tonight's meeting, but a last minute change in my schedule means I may not be able to do so. Sending this email and asking that you please consider my comments on 2 agenda items, the format for the town meeting and the first responder memorial. So for town meeting, for many years, there's been discussion about whether we should consider changing our town meeting format to ballot questions instead of the traditional gathering. Those in support of that change will cite the increasing number of participants. However, I would counter that while there are certainly fewer people who assemble at the town meeting, those voters are generally better informed and able to ask questions in real time before a vote is cast. In-person gatherings are the only forum in which amendments can be made. There's also an outside chance that if the funds approved by the town warrant ballot exceeds the tax levels of what we refer to as LD1, and that ballot item was to fail, it would be a significant time-consuming process to make the necessary adjustments. Then there is the very real personal connection of the traditional format where neighbors meet with neighbors that contributes greatly to what makes Belgrade a special place to live, work, and play. Although only once a year, those meetings provide the best informed and most engaged voters and provide a unique sense of community. While the number of ballots cast was highest in 2020, the first time we voted by secret ballot, it is important to remember there were several races on those ballots, school and primary races. It was also eye-opening and somewhat discouraging to hear from folks turning in their ballots that they didn't know that there were going to be questions about town operations. Sadly, we also had a large number of voters just last week who said that they didn't know that there was a town ballot. Many turned in blank ballots. Others told me they just picked a name for the sake of picking a name. Another reality is that the articles on a secret ballot are highly likely to pass. At least that has been our experience for many years. If an unstated goal of the select board is to simply get through the process so that the articles as drafted are approved, I would suggest you consider the merits of adopting a town charter and going to a town council form of government. I'm not necessarily advocating for that change, but perhaps it is time to collect contemporary information on the process. Given the ongoing nature of the pandemic and the demographics of our town, it may be necessary to consider a secret ballot again for 2022. However, if the intention is to transition to that format as the default for future meetings, there should be more research on the merits of different formats, including that of developing a town charter before it is sent to the townspeople for a vote. Many times in response to other topics and ideas, I've heard the comment, that's not the way we do it here. And sometimes that feels like it's holding up progress. However, in this case, I believe that it is holding on to a tradition that makes towns like ours very special. So this time, is there anyone from the audience who'd like to weigh in? Seeing none, is there any further discussion on that item? Just one email on that particular. The other ones have to do with other stuff. So here's my take on it. I don't want to be the board that decides to do away with town meeting. I think it's important. I think that it's the only ability that we have to actually lower the amount of a warrant article. You can lower the amount on the floor of town meeting, you cannot increase the amount. So if we do come close to exceeding LD1, at that point, there has to be a secret ballot taken that gives the town the authority to override LD1. The last couple of years, we have stayed under the LD1 tax limit. We've not yet finished the budget process, so we're not so sure where we're going to be in that. But there are definite pros and cons to both sides. Town meeting format in the town has traditionally started, it actually starts at 8 o'clock the day before the in-person town meeting, and it finishes at the end of town meeting on the Saturday.
More too.
So what Dan said, in case you didn't hear, is that we've also been able to lower what is called the TAN, or the tax anticipation rate. You can do that on the floor of town meeting, so you cannot do that in a ballot. So you don't know.
I think you're right, that if we are going to, I don't think that our decision today is to do away with the town meeting. I think whether or not we're going to, I think the decision is, given the fact that, as you mentioned when we first came in, the pandemic at this point is still very much with us. And as Jay points out, the demographics of our town tend to be an older population, and who knows what the situation is going to be like in March. And it just seems to me that for this year, it might be wise to do another secret ballot and, spend some time thinking about what other alternatives might be.
So, yeah, and I'm just probably the opposite, because you have concerts that are starting to go. We've got basket bingo that's been approved for this fall. People are getting together now. And I think we have plenty of room to space out the chairs down there. We have 6 feet apart if they need to. The town meeting. So
I think the coziest part of town meeting has always been having the select board and the budget committee and all of the town employees in that section in the front.
And the food.
And the
Right.
food on the side, yeah. But I think we could have ways that we could space out. I mean, this right here is a perfect example. The state did not say, when they said we had to reconvene in public again, that we needed 6 feet of separation. And I said, well, hang on to your hats, because it's coming, we're gonna have another wave. So I said, I think it's in our best interest if we space out and just continue spacing out. Come down the pike, and that's gonna be the recommendation, but Belgrade's always been a little bit ahead of that curve. So I think we all feel a little bit more comfortable with. And the central seasons is certainly big enough. And, considering even if 100 people show up, there's enough space there that we can do what we've done in the past and have the food in a different room, and there's space there where we can space out. And Carol, you had raised some really good points when the candidates forum. So do you want to reiterate that?
Well, my feeling on it is, well, we've had the secret ballots and there have been other reasons why we've had a huge turnout. But we have had a lot more people voting, and more people voting for me is a more democratic outcome. But I would, I guess one of my thoughts is maybe the week before, when you have a public hearing, there usually are not very many people who attend. It's very poorly attended. That maybe the Saturday before the vote on Friday, which, you know, the prior week, we do an additional town meeting, because we have to comply with what the hearings are. But we get people together to discuss what the issues are and coordinate it with either a community dinner or a concert, you know, either the Ballers or Christine Polson or something that would give people come together to have that sense of community, to ask any other questions they might have about for clarification, and then go ahead and have a secret that Friday, I guess it would be the following Friday. Is that how they do it?
Secret ballot would be the following Friday, yes.
So that was my thought on a way to sort of combine the two of them as best we can.
And so the secret ballot paper would have all of the warrant articles, or just
Well,
part?
I guess
Some of them
I would
are
say
generally taken out.
if somebody had questions, we'd say, you know, here are the articles. Does anyone have a question on 1 through 5, or maybe ask people ahead of time that have a question on it, so that we're prepared to answer the question and have a discussion that would be informative but not binding, obviously.
My question would be to that, though, is what's the difference between doing that the week before and just having a town meeting and still having people get together and ask the questions? What all about? We're still gathering.
Yeah, it's not the gathering part, it's that it appears as though the numbers say we have more people that vote on a secret ballot than vote in person.
Right. I have the numbers going back to 2014. And in the two most recent years, in 2021, last year, that everything was a secret ballot, and it was held at the same time as the traditional town meeting would have been. And that was 457 the year votes. The year before that, when the vote was in July, because we had postponed it due to the start of the pandemic, there were actually 773 votes, but that coincided with the primary.
Right.
And so there was a big turnout for that. In 2019, it was 482, 2018, 543, 2017, 383, 2016, 372. And these are the votes that were cast for the secret ballot portion of the vote. And in all of these years, there's not an actual record of the numbers of people who come to town meeting, but Mary Vogel, our election clerk, estimated that every year it's around 100 people who come and vote for the town meeting.
Right.
And so if we have,
I am curious why we don't have a record of the number of people that attend, because every voter that comes in gets your pink card for voting when you go
Right.
to do a secret ballot, and you have to be checked in for town meeting.
right. But we don't have those numbers. So,
One of
so
those
it-
other things we want to make sure we have moving forward.
yeah. So, I mean, I realize that the people who come to town meeting are, as Jay said, the most engaged. But if that's less than a third of the people who would have voted the day before on the secret ballot issues, you know, is that really reflective of the democratic process in the town?
Well, I feel what does happen there is that the same 100 people vote the day before and go to town meeting.
Right, there's no way to know that. But, but I think the people who come to town meeting are also most likely to come and vote on those secret ballot issues the day before. So even if you take 100 out of, you know, so we would have, say, you know, in 2019, we had another 382 people who voted, and there were some, there was, I think that was the year that there was a vote on the library and whether to have the full-time, increase the budget for the library, and that brought out, there may have been another issue too, but that may have brought out a lot of people. So there are, there is a variety in the turnout.
Well, and I guess one of my concerns with doing it all on a secret ballot was actually a couple of years ago, what we were trying to do was whittle down the amount of things that were on the secret ballot, because there were items that had been carried forward year after year, like the library, the recreation budget, that we did not have to move forward anymore for secret ballot. That the first year that those went to secret ballot, it was by petition. And after that, we were not legally obligated to move it forward that same way. So we were actually attempting to whittle that down and essentially only have the items on that secret ballot that absolutely had to be on that secret ballot. Rick, do you want to weigh in?
Probably don't want to hear me because
I'll
Still
listen to you. We
I'm
always
still-
agree to disagree, Ricky, and have forever.
I'm still holding my guns. I mean, the pudding's, I mean, we can play this game all you want. If you want 100 people to decide the budget for the town, then that's fine. I'm not gonna do that. If I can see 600 or 700, 800 people voting, that's the way I want to see it. And I think that's the only way to go. I mean, it's our job to make sure we're getting a full vote in these articles, and they can come up with all this they want about they didn't fill out a ballot, whatever. It's happened all the time since I've been in this town. I counted votes before I became a select person. You would find ones that nobody even filled out. So it's nothing different, but there is definitely a lot more people voting on secret ballot than's going to come to that town meeting. And I've been going to it almost all my life. I probably didn't go over a few years when I was small. I've been going to them. So my favorite is we go to secret ballot, and that's where I'm going to stay with it.
Can I ask one quick question, Mac, and then I'll get to you. Anthony, do we have the number breakdown on this election that we just had? How many folks cast an absentee ballot versus how many folks?
Yeah, so there were 1,273 votes total cast, and of those, about 450 were absentee.
So that dynamic tells us that folks are still comfortable going out and voting in public. That's a total different split than what we're seeing in town meeting.
Yeah, and just to put that into context, we have approximately 2,800 registered voters.
And there was a big issue, there was the corridor that brought out a lot of people.
Mac?
Yeah, I guess listening to your debate, it seems to me if the interest is in having a secret ballot because you want to have more people as part of the process, then I think part of the decision should also be when that vote should take place. Because town meeting, it's called meeting. So it was designed originally to be in March in the winter for people to get together, right? But if you're not having a meeting, if it's just a vote, then you might as well put it when other votes are to further increase the actual turnout. Because as you just read, Mrs. Allen, when the turnout was in July, it was greater than March. When the turnout was in November, it was greater than March. So if the goal of going to secret ballot is to increase turnout, then I would suggest not just making it the Friday of the third Friday of March, but actually combining it or making it when a high turnout will occur. I'm not saying advocate for that, I'm just saying.
Yeah, or at a time of year when there are more residents
Right.
who are here, because we do, given our demographics, we do have a lot of people who go.
Exactly.
And they can vote absentee on whatever items are in the secret ballot, but not on items that are on the floor for town meeting.
problem with moving that though, we'd have to change the town's fiscal year to do that. Because right now, town meeting, authorize us to go back for 3 months. Do you want 6 months of expenses and then have somebody turn around and vote against it?
Well, aren't you contemplating changing the fiscal year anyway? And I've thought, since I moved here, I thought the whole fiscal year was kind of strange. Why are we paying interest for our taxes anyway? That doesn't make sense, so.
We've
I think it
talked
makes
about
sense.
it for a long time.
Right, so I think that,
But we've also had a lot of pushback.
well, if this is another argument for it, that could be part of the debate for that.
All right, any further discussion? All right, seeing none from the audience. Ready to take a vote? Ricky?
And what's the
What do
motion?
you vote?
Oh, so, well, I guess someone has to make a motion. So I make a motion that we continue with the town meeting format that we have, that there are secret ballot items, referendum items, and then that there's also an in-person town meeting.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. So any discussion?
Oh, your motion is, Melanie, you're keeping it the same as it always has been, is that correct?
As it always has been.
Except for the last 2 years.
So, and it doesn't mean that it's gonna be the same articles for secret ballot. If there are items that
I understand that. You're
aren't
gonna,
gonna be controversial or,
you're gonna have the meeting at the Center for All Seasons. Am I correct? Okay,
Yes.
that's what I wanted to hear. Thank you.
it's the biggest space we got. Unless people wanna do it outside, it's gonna be kind of chill. All right, so there's a motion and a second on the floor. No further discussion. Ricky,
No,
Barbara,
No,
Carol,
No,
Dan?
Yes.
All right, 2 yeses, 3 nos. Take a motion. A motion on an alternative.
the alternative would be secret ballot, all warrant articles on secret ballot.
Take a motion.
Yes.
Is there a second?
I can't hear it, but I think I heard it. That you want to go with the secret ballot?
And do away with town, in-person town meeting.
For 2022.
Try that again.
We're talking about this coming year.
So are we only talking about this coming year?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so that's a motion. Is there a second?
Let me hear the motion again, please.
Go ahead.
I move that we hold the 2022 town meeting warrant articles on secret ballot at the normal March time when we would normally have a town.
I'll second that.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All right, seeing none. Barbara,
Yes,
Dan,
No.
Rick,
Yes,
Carol? Yes. 3 yeses, 2 nos. Motion carries. So for 2022, town meeting will be conducted strictly by secret ballot. So y'all better show up at the public hearing. Because otherwise, you're not gonna know what you vote.
and why don't we add an article to that when we do it? Taxpayers decide what they want to do. Whether they want to have the traditional town meeting or secret ballot one. we can add that right to this when we do this. I would think, and then whatever happens.
I agree. I feel like it would be really good to have a wide consultation with residents and voters.
All right, next up, we have new business. We have consideration of appointments. I'll take a motion to open that item. Someone
Second.
moved and seconded. I'm gonna make a motion that we table Sue Bradshaw's appointment for the Senior Resources Committee because she's unable to attend this evening.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on that? Seeing none. Rick?
We really don't have to vote on it, do we? If we're not acting on it?
Oh, just add, moving to table.
Oh, yes, fine.
Barbara? Dan?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
All right. I'm gonna table that item. Second up, we have Kim Hagan for the Senior Resources Committee. Kim, did I say it right? I thought so. And then I said- All right, so Kim Hagan to the Senior Resources Committee.
I'll make that motion.
Moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Do you want to tell us why you want to be on the committee?
Sure.
It's kind of nice to hear.
I love Belgrade. I grew up here, native Belgrade. I think there's a lot of, I not only love it, the community, I think it's important to be involved civically. But I think there's a lot of needs to our seniors in town, and they range from everything from technology needs to having help with Medicare D forms, things they need with help getting wood in and winterizing. And I think there's a lot of needs, and I want our seniors to be able to stay in their homes and have this be a place that people want to retire and stay in.
We appreciate your willingness to serve. There's no further discussion. Carol?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Ricky?
Yes.
5 yeses. Welcome aboard. Thank you. All right, next up, we have Travis Barton, and Travis is here remotely. Travis will be as an alternate addressing officer for 911.
Make that motion.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion on that? All right, seeing none. Ricky?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
All right, 5 yeses. Thank you for agreeing to do that, Travis.
No problem, thank you.
Is there anything else we can add to your plate?
Hey, whatever you guys give me, we'll work on.
Well, we appreciate it. And then is Danielle with us as well? She a little further down the list here.
Yes, he's.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none. Barbara?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Ricky?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
All right, 5 yeses. Thank you as well, Danielle, for being willing to do that. Are you there? I think you're muted. There she is. Thank you, Danielle.
How about now?
There we go.
There.
Thank you for agreeing to do that, Danielle. I know you guys have a little pile of stuff ahead of you for that, but we really appreciate you being willing to do that and help.
No worries. I'll do my best.
We know you will. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right, and the next up, we have our new recreation director. Some of you may know Annie. I'm gonna take them, so let me just see. was one former select board member, Michael Barrett, who sent this in. And he asked that we forward these sentiments regarding the appointment of our recreation director. I see that Annie Douglas is being considered for the rec director position. Did I say your last name right? I can't think of a better person for the job. I've known Annie and her family for many years. She has always been involved with children, recreation, and town matters. I hope that she is selected for this position. She would be a great asset to the town of Belgrade. So, Anthony, do you want to state anything? You had sent a nice little
Yeah,
thing.
so we had a really fabulous field of candidates. We ended up interviewing 4 of those. And at the end of the day, I think the consensus was that Annie was clearly the best choice. We heard during this process from a lot of people in the community. We think very highly of Annie because of their work with her in the recreation program. She's no stranger to the recreation program. She's worked in it for almost 10 years. And in the interim, she's been helping us out. She's really impressed people with her attentiveness, her responsiveness, and her customer service. So we're looking to really have a spark of energy in our recreation program with Annie's leadership.
So welcome. Thanks for agreeing to take the position.
I will also say that on the interview panel, Melanie served on that, as well as Linda Bacon, our board of Parks and Recreation chair, and Erin Merrill, who has a child in the recreation program.
It was a nice group and we know we grow people. So Anthony, do you put the recommendation forward and then we approve it?
That's correct. I'm asking you to confirm her appointment.
All right, is there any further discussion? Seeing none, Rick,
Yes.
Barbara,
Yes.
Dan, Carol,
Yes.
5 yeses, girl, you're in. It's probably the easiest vote we've had all night. She's like, it's touch and go there for a minute.
Yeah, we're good.
So on the way in, she worked with 50 cents though.
Yeah.
All right, so next up under new business, we have discussion and consideration of recommendations from the First Responders Memorial Group. I'll take a motion to open that.
Someone,
And that is open for discussion. And at this point, this is the second half of Citizen Jay Bradshaw's email. First Responder Memorial. The other item to which I wanted to share my thoughts is the First Responder Memorial. I was very pleased to be on the committee that explored several designs and locations. That process included both traditional granite designs and a lighted design similar to that at the main EMS Memorial on State Street, in Augusta. We also explored different locations, keeping in mind both visibility of the memorial and the setting into which it would be placed. I wholeheartedly support both the design that Matt detailed and placing it in the village green, unless the location of a new centralized fire station in the depot area provides the visibility that such a memorial deserves. I was also struck by how dramatically granite prices have risen just in the course of time that we've been researching options. This makes the urgency of securing a deposit all the more important. I continue to believe that private fundraising will be successful, but that takes time. And in this case, time is not working on our side. I'm hopeful that there will be a creative solution identified as you consider how to proceed. All right, Mac, you're up.
So you got my memo.
Do you want me to read your memo so that it's part of the public record? Is that helpful to you?
Doesn't make a difference to me, I don't know.
Why don't I go ahead and read it just because the remote participants may not have the board packet.
Sure.
So we have spent many months researching and discussing potential designs and locations for memorial or honor stone to Belgrade first responders. Our group consisted of 9 residents, all spending significant time on the project. Last month, we met for a final time to vote on a final recommendation to send to the town for approval. We recommend a large stone with benches on either side. 3 images are attached to this memo. 2 are photos front and back from the town of St. George, which installed its memorial last summer. Our design is similar, but we believe better. The other image is a final draft design given to us from Provost Monuments. We made some minor modifications to this final draft. However, Provost has not sent an updated final design. Hopefully that will arrive by Tuesday. Do we have the final design?
We do.
We do. And did we get a copy of the final design? Anthony?
No, I literally picked it up. on the
Okay.
way to the meeting.
Okay. We recommend placing a memorial in the Belgrade Lakes Village Green. We believe the bench design is ideal for a location with many pedestrians. We recognize the village is not centrally located within Belgrade. We hear that there may be a new fire station in the depot area soon. If that is the case, we believe the first responders memorial would be a great addition to a new fire station centrally located in the depot area. It depends on upon how soon the fire station will be constructed and where it is relative to the depot area. Our main interest is in having the memorial be viewed and appreciated, giving maximum honor to our first responders. We would love for it to be centrally located, but that interest is secondary to it being easily accessed and appreciated by the public. Our recommendation is to contract with Provost Monuments. They are located in Benton, but also own more monuments in Oakland. They are kind local, and some group members who have direct experience say their work is solid. All interactions with them to date have been positive and professional. They gave us the following quote. The center die is 3 feet by 6 by 1 foot by 6 feet 6 inches, all smooth. There are 2 pedestals, 5 feet 6 inches by 10 inches by 1 foot, all smooth. 2 main granite bench seats, Englishman's Bay granite, all smooth finish, 6 feet by 1 foot 4 inches and 6 inches. And India black honed granite with gray granite seats at a cost of $23,796. There are no black granite quarries in Maine, but there are gray granite quarries in Maine. Provost assures us that the gray granite for the benches will come from Maine. They typically require 1/3 of the cost at contract signing. This would allow them to order the materials. However, for our project, they are only requiring $4,000 to order materials. Typically, the town would sign the contract. We recognize that the select board cannot authorize signing the contract until residents vote at town meeting. Unfortunately, if we wait until then, Provost says the cost will increase. As you know, material costs are going up these days. Therefore, we are wondering if the select board would be able to authorize release of $4,000 from a town account prior to town meeting so that we can order materials now. It would take 6 months for delivery. If we wait until after town meeting, the cost will increase and we will not be able to install until 2023. As soon as we receive the final design of it, we will start private fundraising in earnest. Our goal is to privately raise half the cost, or $12,000. Therefore, we are asking for the town to provide $12,000 for this project. If we raise more than our goal, we will use that funding first, and the cost to the town will be reduced. So the first thing that I do just want to make sure that everyone is clear on is that no committee in town has the authority to fundraise without being given that authority by the voting body. So there are only 2 groups in town that have firefighters, the library, and the recreation program right now are the only ones that are authorized to private fundraise. So I don't know, has Mary offered any suggestions?
So a couple of ideas come to mind. First of all, I think Matt, you and I may have talked about this, the idea of the fire association actually being sort of the point organization with the fundraising, since they're not actually affiliated with the town, there's their own entity. That's a possibility. And then the other thing is, if we were to take an article to town meeting, put it on the ballot, we could also, within that article, seek voter authorization to allow the town to fundraise for this particular project. Did I state that right, Matt, as far as you recall from our discussion? Yes.
Do you want to, do you have a picture of the final
Yeah,
design there?
so can I just,
Go ahead, Mac, and then Bruce, I'll get you after.
yeah, well, I just wanted to say to all the group members that are online, I apologize. I literally drove from my house to the select board meeting tonight, and on the way, I stopped at Bernadette's house and picked up the final draft. So I apologize that you have not seen it. But they did make all the changes that we requested. So it is, the final design is as we requested. I'm just gonna pass it around so the select board members can see. And then after that, I just want to say any other group members that are online that want to speak, I'd like to give them the opportunity to.
And so Mac, just so we can understand exactly the scale of this,
It's a little bit taller than me.
it's a little bit taller than you, so it's 6'6" would be the height.
Yeah.
And then, so this centerpiece would be 3.5 feet
Wide.
wide, and then
And then,
the benches that come out on either side would be 6 feet long.
that is correct.
So we're talking about 6'6", and so it'd be 9.5 feet wide.
Oh,
15 feet
15
wide.
feet.
15 feet wide total.
Oh, 15 feet.
Melanie, Bruce has his hand.
Bruce?
Right, 6 and 6 is 12, sorry, yeah, you're right, yeah, 6.
One thing I just want to bring up, we're not an official committee because you guys never appointed anybody.
We did approve the creation of the committee.
But nobody, we was never appointed by the Board of Select Persons. Just like the approvals you just did prior to this, that never ever happened with this committee. So it's not an official committee. It's a informational committee. That was my understanding of it. Matt can maybe answer that better than I can, but that was my understanding.
That's as I understand it as well. It's just a group. We came to the select board with the initial idea just to get your support in the sense that we didn't want to go down this path knowing that the select board and the town as represented by the select board thought this was a foolish idea. You gave us your support. We then went out and formed a group of private residents that then met, and but we never came and our group was never appointed by you. That is correct.
So then,
But we are not a town group, town committee. We're not an official town anything.
which ties my hands a little more for town money participation in it without donors and something. Ricky, I'm gonna hold this like this, so. How do I do this so Ricky can see?
There you go.
All right, can you see that, Rick?
A little higher.
A little bit.
No?
Go down a little bit. Yeah, that's right there. Whoa. Whoop. Keep moving.
Because the camera keeps moving.
Shut that thing off and get rid of that thing. Manual.
All right, so how do we proceed, folks?
So if all the group members have had an opportunity to speak, I do have some updated information. I just wanted to give them an opportunity to speak first.
Is there anyone who's participating remotely who has anything to add to this? Nope.
So I did speak to Provost and they gave us the final drawing, the $4,000, yes, but they are able to hold that until the end of the calendar year. So we'll have another 6-7 weeks to raise the $4,000 to put as a deposit for that, which I was worried when we initially talked to her, it was like next week, you know, prices are going way up. But if we have till the end of December, that's really good. And then also, we do have an account in the fire association that is set up to collect donations for this particular project. So that's already been set up. And the only thing, the provost would provide everything in their quote, they provide materials, they would bring a truck in, they would put it down. The only thing they don't provide is a concrete slab for the memorial to sit on. We would have to provide that. However, our group, some members have already been in contact with some local companies that would be able to provide that kind of piece, and looking at hoping those companies will donate it. So as far as I know, when I say it's 12,000 is half, you know, that's literally half. There are no other extraneous pieces that I'm aware of that would come in out of left field that would all of a sudden increase the cost.
Except the slab, the concrete slab.
Right, but we're taking care of that, so on the side. So I'm not gonna come back, you know, 3 months from now and say, oh, I need another 5,000 for the concrete slab. But
So when they did the town office here, I think there were some conversations that I recall, I wasn't on the board at the time, but they thought that materials were going to be donated, and the providers of those materials did not have the same recollection of the conversation, and were not intending to donate.
Yeah.
So the conversations that you've had for the concrete slab, did folks indicate that they would be willing to donate it? Or should that cost be figured in to the overall cost?
those conversations are ongoing. I can't answer that right now for sure. But I know the town can't sign the contract right now. So we're contemplating, well, what other ideas are there, you know? If we can raise the idea from the general consensus from the group is, now that we have a pretty final picture that we can display, with the select board's support of our recommendation, which is this design and the location, if we can then go out in public and say, look at this picture, this is our recommendation, the select board supports it, we're going to put it on the warrant, then we think it will be much easier just to raise funds, and there's a high probability that we could get $4,000 before the end of December. So I don't know, I mean, I'm definitely open to whatever creative ideas you have, but sort of at the bare minimum, if you just vote to put it on the warrant and your support, I think that would really push us into being able to raise funds seriously.
I do have a question.
Yes,
Matt, I got a question. If they do not have the land for the new fire station, you're gonna put it on the village green. Are you gonna take it up from there once you get a new fire station and move it to the fire station? Would that be the
Sorry, were you done? I didn't mean to interrupt.
I think he's done.
all right?
No, so I've always been a little hesitant from the beginning here. I really am hesitant to speak too much. I know we're a private group, but we are a group of people. I'm speaking for the group, but it's really a very democratic group. I don't want to make decisions for anybody. And at the same time, the whole goal from the beginning was that this would be, we would be a group of people to bring an idea to the town. The town would then move forward with it. We're going to do private fundraising, but this is for the town. And so I think once it's built, it's the towns. I mean, even if we go to the town and ask for town funding, it's really the town. So I don't want to say, well, I think we should move it after the fire station's built. I think that decision would be up to the town or the select board or, you know, however we decide. If that makes sense, Ricky.
Okay, I mean, I really support this 100% if it was gonna be at the fire department, not at Village Green. I think it needs to be in the center of town. Like I do a lot of things, and so that's my 2 cents worth.
Matt, my concern is the location. I think, one, the Village Green isn't that big. This is a pretty massive piece, and in order to sit far enough back from the road, because it's considered a deadly object or something, the state has rules of how far back these more substantial pieces look. And the Village Green, when you have a craft show or something there, is really pretty full. And I mean, I personally think it should be centered, whether it's out in front of this building or whether it's up at the cemetery. I mean, I support what you're doing, but I think it should be hopefully eventually at the new firehouse. And I don't know what the cost would be to move it. I don't know if you've got that price, but it's the location is the only thing that bothers me, is I think it needs to be centered on in this part of town.
What about something at the town office?
We considered the town office, but as I said in my memo, our main concern is visibility. And the whole point is to honor the first responders. And no offense to you, but there's nowhere near as much traffic to the town office as there is in the village.
That's my concern with the new fire station. Some people are really gonna see it as firefighters.
Where's it gonna be?
We can't talk about that right now.
Still negotiating.
Guess we're not really up to that point yet either, are we?
No.
I mean, we're not up to that. We've got to get this other part approved so that they can keep earning money for it. So we may be putting the hospital, that before the horse.
I will say, I was not aware of, you know, that you need certain distances, and if the Village Green is a triangle, so I can imagine they're gonna cramp it pretty easy quickly, so that's a factor we didn't consider. You know, the depot area, when the concept of a fire station in the depot area came up, everybody was totally gung ho for it. I think everybody's on the same board as you. This is, if it can be centrally located, depot area, that's a win-win. The problem is, you know, I don't need to restate the problem.
Well, we don't have a great location in Belgrade where we've talked about walking trails and things like that for years.
Mhm.
And nothing's really come of it. And that would be, you know, a suggestion for where it could be, where folks could see it and actively, you know, appreciate it.
Because I think like Ricky said, I think we can work on that after. We get the money raised to make the thing first.
Right.
I mean, there are places, like I said, here, you got Workman's Field. How many people are at Workman's Field throughout the year?
Right.
With all the sporting events and everything else, you get the town tree sitting down in there
Right.
that we planted. And, you know, there's places we could put it.
I agree that it should be in this part of town, not in the village.
All right, so the next step would be, so there's an account already set up. So what you're looking for tonight is
Let's put it on the warrant.
for us to put it on the warrant for an amount not to exceed, like, or a warrant article for 12,000 with the anticipation that we'll be able to. And we'd also have to have
Not.
Not to exceed
Yeah.
12,000.
an amount not to exceed 12,000 towards the Belgrade Fire Rescue Memorial.
It also came up that if we were gonna put it with the fire station wasn't ready next year, or if we weren't able to put the deposit down in time for them to construct it next year, if we were not able to raise the other half, we put 12,000 this year and then go to town meeting again next year for further funds. So not to exceed 12,000 makes sense. I think we should be able to raise 12,000 privately, but if we need to come back next year for the town fund, that's
Did you hear the
Did
end
you
of
hear
that?
that? Michael?
It's passed. So fast, I don't like to speak.
All right, so I make a motion that the town of Belgrade puts forward a warrant article requesting that we raise and appropriate $12,000 in the anticipation of matching private fundraising towards the creation of a Belgrade Fire and Rescue Memorial.
Not to exceed 12,000. Not just 12,000. So that way, if we have to contribute less, we want them not to exceed, because that way.
We just agreed to a written article, which means that there's no chance to lower that amount. So whatever we put forward, that's what folks are gonna vote on. So if we say 12,000. 12,000,
I'm not for a vote or not to exceed. If they raise more than $12,000, we don't need $12,000.
right, so that's what I was saying, an amount not to exceed, and then I thought you were looking for something different.
No.
Okay,
okay, so
Your article just said $12,000.
oh, an amount not to exceed.
okay, so if you say not to exceed, if we raise 15,000, then you're only gonna raise 9,000.
Yeah, we
Okay,
all,
Then we would only appropriate.
Yeah, because that's what
So
the
he's-
group agreed to.
Right.
If we raise 24,000, the town doesn't need it. Yeah, that was our preference.
So in actually the warrant article, it says raise and or appropriate. So that if it's an amount under 12,000, we can still appropriate that amount.
Which I assume then would give us the option of pulling from the undesignated fund if we wish. Is that correct?
No, I think
Well,
if
it's a
it's a
separate
warrant
article,
article, it's not gonna get pulled from the undesignated fund. But if we raise and or appropriate an amount not to exceed 12,000.
Oh, I see.
And it's only 9,000, then that's all that we would take.
And in that, would you want to seek authorization for the town to engage in fundraising? To assist them with their efforts?
get kind of convoluted.
If you're gonna do that, would it not make sense to make them an ad hoc committee of the town? Before you give them authorization, use them with a private group.
But
You
in
can make
ad
them a
hoc-
standing committee, which doesn't make any sense for an ad hoc committee. They're formed for this purpose. When their purpose is finished, they're finished.
Right.
But they have the town, the auspices of the town, so they have the right to raise funds for this purpose in the name of the town.
Can you raise funds as an ad hoc committee though? Or as an ad hoc committee advisory?
Well, I suppose if the voters authorize it.
Still have to go for the voters to fundraisers.
Yeah, right.
Right now, they'd be fundraising as private individuals and just funneling it through the association.
So if they do that, and they raise the whole $12,000, then you gotta go to the town and get authorized accepting the $12,000.
Well,
No, because the board has the authority to accept any grants and donations on behalf of the town.
Okay, right.
So I think we could do it that way, but then, so there's that motion. And then are you looking for a secondary?
no, no, I'm just clarifying. So, and I just want to make sure I got the motion right. So the motion is to raise and to put a warrant article on in the 22 town ballot to raise and or appropriate an amount not to exceed $12,000.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
For
for the first memorial, first responders memorial.
Is there a second on that?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none. Ricky?
I I guess so. I'm having a wicked job hearing you guys. I don't know.
So the motion is to put a warrant article forward for March 2022. And the warrant article reads to raise and or appropriate an amount not to exceed $12,000 towards the Belgrade First Responders Memorial.
Okay. I guess so, but we didn't put anything on where we're gonna set it yet, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, yes, I'll go along with that, yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
Dan?
yes,
Carol?
Yes.
All right, 5 yeses. There's a warrant.
go forth and raise money.
Well, so just to respond to Rick,
Well, so then do we need to do something to enable them to say, have a collection jar at the town office, have a collection jar at the Center for All Seasons, have something at the library? What do we have to do in order to enable essentially a private group fundraising on behalf of a town sponsor memorial?
Yeah, I was gonna ask a similar question is, what role can the town play just as far as putting out the information that this private group is raising funds for this public purpose? I mean, is that something that we as the town government are allowed to do?
Well, because as a town, we can't fundraise privately.
Yeah, and yes, and I understand that, but I guess we would just be letting folks know that this group is doing that, not that we were soliciting the donations ourselves, not like bring your donation to the town office necessarily. But
But
if you
I,
want to mail a donation, you can send it to this PO box.
Why couldn't the fire so put that out?
well, the fire association can, Ricky, but my question was, can we put collection boxes or jars or cans or whatever in town facilities to assist in the fundraising? Or is there some legal reason why we can't?
So Melanie, it's Mary. So I don't see any reason, I don't see any reason why we can't put any cans in, because we allow the snowmobile club to put a can in the town office. But as far as advertising the information, to me, we would be promoting it. And as part of a town, I think that we should refrain from doing that and maybe do it through the fire association.
Shouldn't be a problem anyway, because we're getting sure that we have to.
I was thinking when we do the donations for the Salvation
Scott
Army.
Darren has any- Scott Darren has any-
Scott's got his hand up. You see him?
Scott?
Hello.
Scott?
So the fire association has agreed to handle the money. The fire association is not doing fundraising for this project. The biggest reason is once we start getting the go-ahead for a new fire station, we're gonna do our own capital, or our plan is to do our own capital fundraising to help offset the cost of $1 million fire station, however it may cost. And it's kind of, as much as the association, I believe and strongly believe supports this monument, it would be kind of weird for the association to be raising money for our own monument. Does that make sense? So we're just handling the money for the committee, or for lack of a better term, not a committee, the folks that put this all together. Does that make sense?
So Mary, legally then, is there any way that we can put collection spots in town? Is there something that we can do as a town? because legally as a town, we cannot fundraise.
Right, so I don't see any reason why you can't put the cans there and allow people to put, money in them. But for us to say, you can mail your money here, or, I'm not really sure, but I don't think that we as a town should be promoting it, because it would appear as though we're fundraising. But maybe we need to look into it legally. Like I said, the snowmobile club, they put a can up there and people just put money in there freely, of their own free will. We don't tell them to, we don't say it's there. It sits on the counter, somebody comes and collects it, and they know that we are not the keepers of that money.
I could definitely reach out to the MMA and get their legal opinion.
Yeah.
I got a question. Why can't we just put out something in the newsletter? You've got people that advertise in this newsletter. Why can't they write an ad and put it in the newsletter?
So those are business card size ads. They actually pay for a full year to have those in there. We do have an article in the newsletter about this. And could we direct from the newsletter, Mary, that maybe not state specifically where they are, but that there are collection sites located around Belgrade and public locations?
Well, I don't see why they couldn't submit their own little piece to the newsletter and say that themselves in their own article.
That's what I'm saying, is because we
Yeah.
have in the newsletter for that to be able to get the information to folks. So it would seem like it would behoove us to follow up with that and say, this is the final design, and this is the full amount, and that there will be collection locations around Belgrade.
Yeah, I don't see any problem with that. But the next newsletter doesn't come out till February, does it?
Right.
So,
I do not anticipate raising $12,000 before February. So I'm happy.
Well,
to
it
put
is
a
the
newsletter
giving
article.
season though.
I think a newsletter article would be great. So I anticipate fundraising.
And that might be good in February before the secret ballot, that way you can
Yeah, true.
write something up on the memorial
Yeah.
and, you can say, the town's gonna be asked to chip in.
Is the fire association a 501c3, so it's tax deductible or not?
No, we are not.
Not, okay.
We are in the process of trying to get that, but the last quote we got from a attorney was $7,000 to become one.
1,000.
That,
Can you find us for that?
is- we did, the Friends of Belgrade Lakes Village did it for between the tax ID number and all of it was about $1,200. And then we did have services from an attorney who gave us a discounted rate, but we didn't pay the attorney more than $1,500, if that. So you may want,
I
Yeah, last
agree
time I
with
said
you.
that.
We just haven't found anybody that given yet to
Okay.
help us out.
All right. Who's gonna make cans? And is there one point person that would be appointed to collect the collections?
That would be approved.
Yeah.
Right.
That's-
Yeah.
We don't
so-
have to
it's a
decide
lot
that.
to agree.
Right, so now that we have this, we're gonna meet again and figure out, okay, divvy up who's gonna, do all the different things, but this is great, can I just ask if there's anybody else in
Absolutely.
the group that wants to say anything or add anything?
does the fire association have your own PO box?
Yes, we do.
Okay, so wants to mail it, then there's a PO box that could go right on everything you do as well.
That is correct.
I don't see that anyone else has their hand raised. Does anyone see something I don't see?
So I just want to say thank you very much for your support from the beginning. And then tonight, this has been great. And we really appreciate it. And
Thank you.
hope it moves forward next summer.
And I will say, if folks have not had a chance to see the photos in the town
yes.
office, that looks fantastic.
Yes.
So nice job on that as well.
And that- I'm gonna take this final design so that we can. Thank you.
Thank you. Good for you. All right, thank you, Matt. All right, next we have the discussion and consideration of request for proposals for a compactor container. I'll take a motion for that item.
Sorry.
Moved and seconded. It's open for discussion. And Bruce, normally the chair of the transfer station committee brings stuff forward. I do have something here from Ken. And which one I think of, oh, yeah,
Bruce is on the line.
let's get up a little bit, there we go. All right, so we have a note here from the transfer station director, Ken, who's with us. It says the transfer station committee and I recommend approval of the attached request for proposals for a compactor container. In 2007 and 8, the town contracted with Waste Management to rent to own 2 compactor containers. The town completed that purchase in 2014. Since then, Waste Management has been repairing and or replacing the containers at no additional charge. In August, Waste Management informed us that one of our containers is past the point of repair and the company does not have a replacement. The life expectancy of this container is unknown. The transfer station staff has been babying it, i.e. not filling it completely before having it emptied, which increases the town's cost. We currently have a 50-yard square box. The RFP includes specs for both a 50 and a 45-yard box. The latter is an octagon-shaped container, which holds slightly less trash, but is a stronger construction, thus requiring less maintenance, along with several smaller capital expense. The committee wanted to include specs for both sizes to give the town options on which is the better choice. We obtained 2 quotes for the new container, one for $17,150 and the other for $22,150. These prices are determined by the price of steel and the size of the container. It does not include shipping, which would be an additional $1,200 to $1,700. This project would be funded through the Solid Waste Capital Reserve, which has a balance of $50,000.
So that 17,150, that 22,150 are prices for what?
For the different sizes of the container. So just to give an estimate, the 45 was the 17,150 and the 50 was the 22. Okay.
Okay, so I guess I was not aware that we had a container there that we were not filling. And so we were paying more for that. I'm wondering why this hasn't come up before now.
So, Ken?
Well, okay, can you hear me okay?
Ken,
You can hear me fine. No, it is being filled, no doubt. It is being filled, not necessarily to the capacity that it can be filled at all times. And the reason why it's just getting to you guys now is, oh, by the way, before I continue, I did invite Matt Fullerton from Waste Management to join us tonight if you had any other questions that I could not answer. But yeah, we're filling it all the way, just not to as much as we normally do because we can't, because the sides are getting ready to blow out on it. We started researching this, I guess, a month and a half ago, and it's just getting on an agenda now. So it's just been, I believe, Matt, if you're there, if you could correct me, I believe it was in August or September we were made aware of this.
Yes, Ken. Hello, everyone. I'm Matt Fullerton. I'm the senior route manager for Waste Management out of Norridgewock, and I've been taking care of managing the drivers and dispatching the trucks for Belgrade since 2009. So I went to Ken in August. What we've done is in 2014, the town effectively purchased two 50-yard square containers that are specific to the town of Belgrade. And over that time, since 2014, over that 7 years, those original containers started to wear out. You know, packing over and over the years, cracks developed, they started to leak. I had containers, not new, but I had containers that had been out of service that we fixed up and replaced them with. And then over time, now we're at a point where I don't have another container to replace the current containers with. So I approached Ken and, you know, talked about what the needs were and where we were at. The containers are being filled. You know, the capacity of legally, we can only haul 18 tons roughly, depending on the truck. Some trucks, it might be 17 and a half. It just depends on the weight of the empty weight of the truck. We've been getting, you know, 16 or 17 ton loads, but if we overpack it, then it will start to leak and then could cause the container to fail quicker. So just to clarify that, they are being filled. You're getting good loads out of there.
Okay, because this read differently. I was picturing like we were sending a half a container and paying for a full load.
Right. Yeah, no, we're just not packing it, you know, 100%. Maybe it's packed 95%, let's say.
And then Matt, do you remember, it seems like that it used to be that waste management provided the containers. And then I remember that we did that shift where the town was doing the essentially rent to own.
Right. So yeah, the contract, I think it dates back maybe 07 or 08, just previous to me. There was a rental agreement. And then in the contract in 09, I believe, that's where the rent to own came. I think they did that, the town and Waste Management did that in order to be more competitive on pricing, save the town a little bit of money. It worked at that time. And then in 2014, I believe the town effectively purchased those cans for $1. I think that's the verbiage in the contract. So since then, there's been no rental on the containers. We just charge a haul rate and the tonnage at the landfill. But like I said, and it does state in there, yes, we have made repairs on the containers multiple times over the last 7 years. We haven't billed back to the town. Don't tell my boss, but no, it's just they've been smaller repairs, leak repairs, nothing major, but we're starting to get to the point where major repairs would have to occur, and the life expectancy of that can just doesn't support that.
Now, Ken, can I ask you, is there any value back to the town for if we buy a new container for the steel to be recycled from the previous container? Would there be any offset to the cost for that?
Sure. I'm sure there would be. I'm sure we could use it as scrap. I don't know what that would be off the top of my head. It depends on what the price of steel is. And Matt, do you know what the weight on that container itself is? The tear weight on that?
I would just be guessing. It's probably around 3,000 pounds, 4,000 pounds, maybe. But it's a guess. I could get that for you.
Right. Okay. So right now we're getting about $130 a ton. So if that's a 2-ton container, we're looking at, $260.
Just don't cash that check all at once. The cost of groceries right now, I leave the store with 2 bags. I'm like, how's that $150? Okay, so, and that would be paid for out of the capital reserve, capital reserve fund for the solid waste. And is there still 50,000 in that? Because it feels like we tapped into that.
It is a little, it's a smidge below 50,000, but not much. And so.
Because did we take the 9,600 for the additional paving out of that capital reserve? So it'd really be more like 40,000?
I want to say right now it's sitting at like 43,000. And then it's scheduled to get $2 more thousand from the unspent expenditures and the additional revenue at the end of the year.
Bruce, did you have anything you wanted to weigh in?
No, I just, I feel that, we should probably get this purchased. I mean, Waste Management's been very, good to us by doing repairs for nothing for all these years. It was in the contract that they were going to charge us, and they haven't. I think they've been great for us, and I just think we should try to move forward and get a new container before this one blows out.
So what's the status of, we have more than one container, so what's the status on the other container?
So the other container, we put that one into service, and Ken can correct me. I think early summer, late spring. That one is in good shape. That's another one I took out of my yard. We fixed it up. It's good to go. So I would think if you got one now and then, have a plan down the road of 5 years or 7 years or whatever, to replace the second one. But the second one will last you quite some time, I think. And Ken, I think you don't have any complaints with that one.
No, that one's in really good shape. Hey, Matt, if you don't mind, can you explain a little bit about the 45 octagon and the 50 box?
Sure. The 50 box would be a square can. That's what you have there currently. Ken and I have spoken, and I think he's spoken to the container rep as well. The 45-yard octagon, although it's got a smaller cubic yards, my experience is octagon containers are much more durable. They'll last a lot longer. The angles will handle the pressure of the compacting much better than a square can will. And the 50-yard box, something that you have there, your compactor is not a conventional ground compactor unit that we see at like behind a Home Depot or at even like Reed Field or other transfer stations. It's the compactor is designed to pack into a tractor trailer box. So it's got a higher pressure. With a 50-yard box, if you pack that until it won't pack anymore, we could be very much overweight. It'll pack 20, 21 tons in there. And we can really only haul 17 or 18 tons. So I think that the 45-yard compactor, when you maximize that, it'll get rid of like overweight worries on the trucking side of it. And it'll be a much more durable compactor and last you longer than a square.
And it's $5,000 cheaper.
Yep, that too.
Matt, what's the general life expectancy on one of those containers?
I don't have an exact number. I'm not a rep, but my experience with the octagon compactors, I have many of them that are 15, 20 years old and still in service with minor repairs. And the repairs that would occur would be more like latches and hinges and things like that, just from wear and tear of opening and closing doors and stuff. So they do last quite some time. And even the square ones that are there now, honestly, are probably 20-year-old containers.
So then if we look at, one of the things I've suggested is that we do a 5-year plan and a 10-year plan for keeping up with stuff at the transfer station so that we stay ahead of things. So if we look at this now and then look at 5 years down the road, purchasing a second container, that timing is about right.
Right.
All right, does anybody else have any questions? All right, I'll make a motion to authorize the town to purchase a 45-yard box for the amount of $17,000.
Well, this is just a matter of putting it out for RFP at this point.
Okay,
So those are just estimates that we got, just so we would know sort of what we were looking at.
all right, make a motion then that we put this forward for an RFP.
Second.
Oh, sorry, my little brain cramp there. Any further discussion? Oh, seeing done. Barbara,
Yes.
Ricky,
Yes.
and the RFP is just gonna be specific to the 45-yard box, or do we need to include both? If the 50-yard box is not in the best interest of the town of Belgrade.
So what the transfer station committee recommended was just including specs for both, just to give us some options. So chances are we'll probably go with the 45-yard box, but just to see what's out there, transfer station committee recommended having both sets of specs in the RFP.
Well, according to Matt, having the bigger box means that we more run the risk of it being overweight and then.
Yeah,
maybe-
understood. And so if you guys want to strip the 50 yards specs out of there, it's easily done.
Does that, I mean, I don't want to step on anyone's toes from the transfer station committee, but are we hearing the same thing? If we run the risk of overfilling the 50-yard container and then Waste Management could potentially get fined for hauling something that's overweight. But the same thing doesn't happen with the 45-yard container, wouldn't it behoove us to take the 50-yard container out of the RFP?
I guess I would be fine with taking the 50 out now here and, what Matt has, said how much weight you could actually put in a 50 yard. Plus that this 45 yard will last longer than the 50 yard because it will take the pressure better than the 50 yard will.
Yeah, and just remember those fines, if Waste Management was to be fined, those fines would back to the town.
Right, so we don't want that to happen.
No.
We don't want those credit card fees for paying it late. Whatever we can do to minimize that stuff, we'll try to do. So is there a whole lot that has to happen to this RFP?
Oh, no,
Or
so,
just all we have to do is just take out
That's right.
under appendix
It's,
A, the specifications for the 50-yard and just remove it?
Yep, it's just a matter of just cutting out that one paragraph.
Why don't you put them both out bid and see what they come back, then we can decide.
But if the 50-yard container, Ricky, has a tendency to be overfilled, it doesn't make sense for us to get a quote on a 50-yard container if it's gonna be overweight, if it's full.
What they've had there. Saying, get a price on both of them, then you can decide from there.
Do we have a 50-yard container there now?
Yeah,
The
yeah, we have 250 yards.
Okay,
All of a sudden, we're worried about being overloaded, but I mean, I understand the other box is gonna be more rugged. It's no doubt in my mind, so. I mean, I'm fine with the 45, but I think you ought to get prices on both and see what they come back.
all right, we'll leave it as is then. If the transfer station, what's your pleasure?
I'd leave it.
Can't hear you, Bruce.
I would leave it as is. And then when it comes back, we can make a final decision before we award a contract.
Okay. So
It
that's
doesn't
my-
hurt to get prices.
All right, so that's my motion, back to the original. All right, so.
I'll second that.
And seconded. Any further discussion? All right, seeing none. Ricky?
Yes.
Ian?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
All right, 5 yeses. Thank you, folks.
That-
Thank you, Matt. I appreciate you coming.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you. It was my pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have
Have
a
a
good-
good night. The way our boards are put together, our books are a little bit, there's
Yeah,
stuff.
we're trying to conserve things.
Well, and I'm okay with that, but these little tab things, if we can have those in between, because it's like a run-on sentence.
Yeah.
It's better than what we had before with the whole packet thing. Okay, so the next thing that we have is discussion and consideration of a concrete slab for the maintenance garage addition. Take a motion to open that item.
Second.
Moved and seconded. That item is open for discussion. All right, Anthony, it looks like you're up on this one.
Well, and Chris is on the line too, and he's more knowledgeable about this, but essentially we're looking to bid out a concrete slab for the garage, maintenance garage addition. And this is less than the $15,000 that is required to put it out to RFP, but given that expense, we did see multiple quotes. We got 3 quotes. The lowest of those is from Precision Concrete Floors of Rome at a cost of $9,800, which would be paid for out of the garage maintenance capital reserve, which has a balance of $60,000.
So in the note, we have the verbal quote was 9,600.
Yeah, and that was my mistake. It should actually be 9,800, and I think I delivered to each of you guys as part of your package there. The latest quote that we got from Precision Concrete Floors.
Does anybody have any questions?
So why did it change 96 to 98?
Because I misunderstood Chris when he told me what the verbal quote was. And then I thought he said 9,600. He probably said 9,800, and then we got the written quote and it was actually 9,800. Chris, is that accurate?
Yes.
Chris, can I ask you something? Did you tell anybody what the other prices were?
Nope.
And Chris, are these the only 3 places where the request was made?
Yeah, I contacted him by phone.
There's a couple of the concrete folks in Belgrade, right?
Yeah, I looked and I couldn't find any.
Is Bayou Concrete still operating?
No,
No.
doing solar. But no,
Oh,
he sold off most of this stuff.
Okay. All right, well, I make a motion that we award the contract to Precision Concrete Floors in the amount of $9,800. And that money will come out of,
The garage capital reserve.
thank you. And now this pad needs to be poured and then it needs to set and cure, correct?
Chris, that's the first question.
Chris?
What's that?
So does the pad need to be poured and then it needs to cure for a certain amount of time before the addition can go on it?
Yeah, we're gonna have to put it out to be PDF to see if we can get a price on the building.
Right, but my question is, can the concrete slab for the addition be poured in advance because it needs to cure, correct?
Yes.
Okay,
Are they gonna port this? Getting pretty late.
Yeah, I'm hoping to get it done this next couple weeks.
Huh.
yeah, Ricky, that huh says you got something to say.
Shutting down.
I'm just a little surprised because every other contract is read out straight. Most of them aren't taking any more work this year. I'm a little surprised.
And the concrete plants haven't shut down yet.
You
'cause
know, they'll
that's-
slow down.
No, it's a
It's
contract.
bad using calcium. Start adding more calcium.
And then does that mean that the consistency of the concrete is?
No, it just
No.
typically makes it more expensive.
All right, so there's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, moved in second. Is there any further discussion? All right, seeing none. Ricky?
Yeah, I'll go with it. I just don't like the two prices we got.
All right, so Ricky says yes. Barbara?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Carol?
Yeah.
All right, 5 yeses. Chris, will you just follow up with them and make sure that it's gonna get poured in the next couple of weeks and let the town manager know so that he can let the board know if there's any change there?
Yep,
And,
I can do that.
okay, because if there is a change, we'll need to know whether there's gonna be an increase in cost if they can't pour it until spring.
Yeah.
Or if they're willing to hold their price, okay?
Yep.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
All right, next on the agenda, we have the discussion of town refunds. I'll take a motion to open that item. Moved and seconded. That item is open for discussion. I apologize, ladies, because I have your email in my phone and my phone is in the car. I knew I was leaving the car, like I felt kind of naked, but I wasn't sure why, and we didn't include their emails here.
I did not.
So here's the scoop. I'll surmise it, okay? So the way it works for yoga is that you put a check in for $50 and it covers so many
Well, you put in
classes.
whatever you want. You can pay weekly or you can pay in a big lot, which is what Carol and I
So
go.
you write your check for many sessions of yoga you're purchasing, goes into an envelope, and a sheet is printed out that shows your name and what you paid. And then each week when you check in, you check off that you came, and at the end, you purchase your number, whatever you owe again, so it's kind of right. So yoga was canceled because of COVID. And, I mean, I wrote a check and Jane wrote a check. And so we didn't get our yoga sessions because there weren't yoga sessions. And I'm kind of hoping it would start up again. Still COVID, no yoga. Jane asked for a refund, talked to me and said, oh my gosh, there's no policy. I can't get a refund. There's no documentation.
Well,
We
first I
know
was
we-
told I would get a refund. I made a deal with Anthony and then he called me back and said, no, it was very insulting. And there should be a sign-up sheet that proves that we paid. It'll show how many classes that provided for us. I may not have gone every week. I don't remember. It's almost 2 years ago. And so in the meantime, I'm doing yoga someplace else and paying for it. And I would like to have my money back that I didn't get, service for.
And so for me, I'm pretty sure that I'm also owed a refund. For me, I don't think the town should make an arbitrary case-by-case decision about refunds. If I write a check, there should be a policy on how, and I need a refund, there should be a policy about that, so that it's not, Anthony's not in the position of saying you get one or you don't get one. And the citizen is in a position of thinking, oh, why don't I get a refund, and she got a refund. I just think the town should have a policy so that we know what to expect about a refund.
And
Which is why I
also,
wrote to you.
and also the room that we do yoga in is very small. So even if it started up again, there wouldn't be room for people to space out at all. And with the numbers going the way they are, as a senior citizen, I'm not gonna go into that room and be exposed, and I'm not doing yoga with a mask on.
Was there an alternative offer to the in-person, like a lot of folks did, offered online classes or something like that? Because here's what my first thoughts were with this, is that money came into the town, and then that money was paid to the yoga instructor. So technically, the yoga instructor would be issuing a refund. The time lapse is huge. We're going on 20 months at this point. And so then any monies that did come into the town, those books are closed out.
That's not my fault.
Well, we're not saying that it's your problem. We're trying to figure out a way that we could mitigate it and make it fair for everyone. So
But if those classes hadn't been taken yet, and Julia wasn't there either, she's not gonna be paid in advance for classes that she didn't do. So the money should be there. You wouldn't pay her in advance, right?
I don't know how,
And to be honest, I don't know how that works either, what the
Yeah.
transaction was between the recreation director and yoga instructor. Now, there was yoga within the past year. I mean, those classes have been moved out into the gym so that people can space out and participate in that safely. And some of it has occurred outside on the deck too, just to provide.
Right, but how would we have known that yoga came back? Because I never got a
I never
notification
knew.
that yoga was back or not back. I just
Yeah.
was told to cancel. My
So
point
we
is still my
paid-
point.
we
You guys should
paid-
have a policy. I ran a business for 15 years. You have to have a policy that lets your customers know what the deal is and what they can expect and what they can't expect. There should be rules about that rather than arbitrary, oh gosh, it was.
It's COVID. It's an emergency situation and it should be dealt with as such.
I don't agree. So we'll have to agree to disagree. You clearly stated yourself that you're not even sure if you took all the classes that would have
That's
covered that
right.
$50. So.
But there's proof of it in the sheet that I sign in on. That should be somewhere in Belgrade. We sign in every time we go. So there is a record of it and it can be proven. That's up to you to find out.
Yeah, I know I didn't because I wrote my check and then, because classes, I found out, I saw Lily in public somewhere and she said they'd start up. I went back, I wrote a check. And then they were canceled again. So, at any rate, I just think that it should be clear so that I don't feel pissed off and Jane doesn't feel pissed off because you guys have articulated what it is that you do when a taxpayer wants a refund.
So in not knowing how to handle it, we did reach out to the interim rec director who said that the policy was no refunds.
The what? There is a written policy that says we don't ever give a refund?
So as I stated in the memo, we only are aware, or I'm only aware of, I asked around 2 refund policies. One is related to refunds of excise tax credits, which is something that was passed by the town over some years ago, perpetuity article. And then in the facility usage contract, there is a clause in there that allows someone, if someone pays their rental fee up front and they cancel the event no later than 14 days within the date of the event, then they can get a refund. Now we do, with our craft shows, we do include in the contract with the craft show vendors that event happens, rain or shine, no refunds, and everyone's aware of that up front.
Well, I've never been made
So
aware of
there
any
isn't a
policy.
policy and there isn't a policy. It's kind of what you're saying. Okay.
And so that's why I tried to lay out in this memo is if the board wants to create a policy, I think there's just some questions that we have to sort of consider. And we would need some guidance in, what you guys are looking for. I think Melanie, as you just mentioned, we like to try to keep transactions within the same fiscal year that they occur. And so it becomes a bit of an auditing mess otherwise. And so, if we create a policy, we should consider what is the time frame within which someone can request a refund and what would be the circumstances for granting a refund. Who would be the one deciding that? Would that be the director? Would it be the manager? Would it be the select board? Or does the select board want to serve as sort of an appellate body if someone isn't happy with the decision that's made lower down the food chain? So,
So I guess I also want to ask, there were other programs at the Center Fall season when COVID first hit. So folks had paid for basketball. But basketball was a pay every time as you go.
that's right. When you showed up, you paid.
So when you showed up, you paid. And then what about the after-school program?
So those folks pay on a weekly basis. So they don't pay in advance. They pay on.
Okay, are there any other programs that the summer holds where folks pay in advance?
That would be a better question for Annie than it would be for me. I'm not aware of it. I mean, I've participated in yoga before, and so I paid in advance. I pay a month's worth in advance.
Yeah.
That's the only one that I'm aware of. But that's not to say that there's not others.
It's easier to do that than to, pay as you go.
Well, there was a
because-
discount. If you,
Yeah.
you're right, it was a
Yeah.
discount. You paid more if you paid every week, and you got $1 off of your sessions if you bought them in a bunch. So that's what a lot of us did. That way it's cheaper.
So Andy is on the Zoom call, so she might be able to answer whether or not there are any other programs that pay in advance at the rec center.
Annie, can you help us at all?
So what I know as of now, in the past, we, for even childcare programs or say camp programs, for those you do pay prior to, you are signed up for the week because that payment kind of secures your spot. If you cannot attend for XYZ reasons, we did not ever do a refund for situations such as that. Like if a child got sick and couldn't come to camp for 3 days or whatnot. As for ping pong, pickleball, and basketball, they were a pay as you go of like $1 donation. And my understanding in the past as well is that payments would come into the center and then the town would pay the third party, which was our yoga instructor. But I have looked through the records, cannot find records as far back as, what are we looking at, 2 years ago now for yoga attendance.
And who would
Would
have
the
those
teacher-
records?
would the teacher have
Would it be
those?
the instructor?
I'm not sure. I cannot answer for that one right now.
When we would have class, Willie would come out with the envelope every day. She kept track, she had the list, she had the envelope that the money went into. It was all contained right there, and Julia never took any of that when she left. That stayed there and came out on the day that we did class.
I'm sure that's correct, because keep in mind Julia's name was appears on the warrant, and so that money would come to the town, and the town would turn pay Julia her portion of that.
So we paid for a service that we didn't get.
And Julie wasn't providing it because it was canceled, so you guys kept the money.
And it was an emergency situation.
I mean, for me, it's not about the money. It's about nobody should be in a position of making an arbitrary decision when there's a request for a refund, so that you get hard feelings.
Well, and that's why I asked for it to come to a board meeting.
Right. And that's why I wrote you.
You know.
Because it's unfair for Anthony to have to say yes or no, and then,
And then say yes, and then call me back and say no.
So, yeah, it's
That was
unfortunate.
ridiculous.
It's unfortunate, and you're a business, you're a business. You need to have a policy for that.
Guys wanna weigh in?
Well, it sounds to me like there are two issues. One is, does the town need a refund policy? And it sounds like we probably need to have one drafted up to take care of future issues. The second one is, how do we mitigate this situation?
Right.
And I mean, I think clearly it looks like there's probably a need for a refund policy or something stated moving forward, because we now have a situation.
But we're not gonna develop that tonight.
No.
Develop
But
it.
is the yoga instructor available to check? I don't know who she was, Julia? is
Yeah,
that her
I mean,
name?
I emailed Julia before I wrote you, and just said, Julia, remind me of when you were there and when you weren't there. And she kind of gave me a ballpark, but I don't think she went back into her records and specifically looked. And, I went back into my checking account and, I mean, I'm not gonna, $40 is $40, I'm not gonna die over $40, but.
Yeah, I wrote out a check for $72. And I don't know how many of those pertain to classes that I was in or if I paid in advance. Because I don't remember. It's 2 years ago almost.
That's the problem I have with it, being over a year old, requesting a refund after a
Well,
year.
I was trying to be a nice person and just wait. But it was COVID.
And I understand that. The business I've got right now, Maine Restaurant Association has $1,200 a month. Because they canceled it. And basically I have the option the next time they actually have an in-person restaurant thing. It's paid for. That's what I get.
Yeah, we were kind of waiting for Julia to come back, really.
So.
But I'm not gonna go into that room until COVID is done. There's no way I'm gonna do yoga in that small room because we can't even get 3 feet apart in that room.
But it doesn't.
But I
sound like
thought
they're
they were in the big
small.
room. I thought it had to
Well,
go to the gym.
They were outside for a while, and then it got too cold. And
Not when I was there.
And I was there where people didn't want to go inside with masks and, yeah.
I'm doing it in the comfort of my own home now. And I would
I think
like,
that's the other thing is we've all made different arrangements for our exercise routines. It's 2 years out.
Well, I think that what we're all just trying to figure out is, is 20 months too late to ask for a refund? Do we go back to the yoga instructor and ask her to give the money back?
Is
To
that
the
your
town?
policy? 20 months is too late? What's your policy around what's too
yeah, how
late?
can you just throw that out?
That's.
So what I'm trying to figure out is the books were closed at the end of 2020. So then do we request the money back from the instructor who then received money for services that weren't provided? Or, and where does it end? Because you're both saying that neither of you has a record.
I know I
The
wrote it down.
record would be here, should be within this town office, because they held on to those records at the community center. Not the instructor. They were there in an envelope that came out every time we started the class.
Maybe Annie could get in touch with Lily and see what she knows about those records.
Right, I mean.
Because the
stuff just
instructor
doesn't
wouldn't
disappear.
have been paid for classes that she didn't teach. So the question is just how much of Carol and Jane's money that they paid for classes was actually applied to classes and how much is owed them
That's right.
for classes that the town did not deliver on because of COVID.
And how many other folks is that going to affect?
And how many other
How
people?
many other folks?
Yeah.
That's up to
Paying
them.
in advance.
I don't know how many other folks. The Wednesday class probably had 15 people in it, and the Thursday class probably had 6 people in it, so.
I guess I would like to suggest that we do a little bit more digging into these envelopes and attendance forms that presumably Lily had. I mean, she probably didn't get rid of them. They must be, she might even know where they are. And come up with what seems like a reasonable figure for what people would be owed.
Right.
I mean, there must be
Don't you
some,
have to keep records?
sorry?
Don't you have to keep records of money in and money out for your services? I mean, I don't know, I ran a business, I had to keep records of every penny that came in and every penny that went out. And I could be audited 2 years after my books closed, so.
And I'm suggesting that maybe those records are there, but maybe Annie doesn't know where they are. We have a brand new recreation director, and maybe if someone contacted
Yeah, because she
Lily,
hasn't been doing that, so yeah, she probably doesn't know.
maybe Lily would have.
Right,
those
if I may, any money that does come into the center goes through our Trio system, which is then taken as a deposit weekly up to the town office, and that's happened for as long as I can remember. What it comes down to is it's going to have to be looking for the attendance sheets that are going back 20 months and then comparing that to what was paid for classes that they used or did not use. So we have a record of the payments. We just need to find a record of the attendance is what it sounds like.
For the bulk of the 20 months, there was no yoga. So it's not like there's 20 months worth of this voluminous amount of prep. For the bulk of that period of time, classes weren't happening.
Right, so Barbara has a suggestion, is anyone else?
I go to Lily.
talk to Lily first and see, she may say, oh yeah, those I filed and there's a place we can go find it.
Yeah.
And do some backtracking now that we're aware of it.
And are we prohibited budgetarily from taking money from 2021 and applying it in this kind of situation?
There's no prohibition against it. It's just a little messier from an accounting standpoint. I mean, the auditor likes to see all the transactions occur within 1 year, and then the books are closed on that 1 year.
Right.
But yeah, we did have to get permission for the town to refund money or excise tax and things like that.
That's correct. Which is something that just incidentally is just allowed under state law. So that's sort of the genesis of that.
But I mean, it seems to me that if people paid for a service that they didn't get, that they didn't receive, that, you know, there would be two options. One would be a refund, one would be a credit toward future programs. But you're saying you don't, even if we can determine what the amount is that would be credited, you don't want credit to a
I don't
future
think I'd
program.
want to do anything there anymore.
I mean, I was kind of waiting to go back, but it's 20 months.
Well, we have a brand new recreation director, so you may be,
I love the Lily. I
she
thought
may
that
have
was
some
a-
wonderful new programs and ideas, so
Right, yeah.
So,
why don't we first see if we can,
well, because
get
that, and
what
that
we
was
can
my
find for
first
records,
reaction
and
to it
then-
was, could
and
we
then
offer
work
a
from there.
credit to you or your family
Right,
towards a
for me,
future
it's-
program? Because then there isn't money actually changing hands and we're not pulling from a previous year's budget and you know, pulling from this year to cover something from 20 months ago. And what sort of a can of worms does that open? You know,
It
if I
shouldn't have to be
say
like
5 years
that.
ago, I paid for, you know, this and oh, now that I think
This
about
is
it.
a completely different thing during COVID. It was an emergency shutdown.
I understand that, but what we're saying is that what we attempted to do was offer a credit towards a future program.
Yeah, well, I'm already in a program.
I mean, there was no, once nobody offered us, nobody ever offered me anything. And nobody told me that yoga was starting then or not starting then, so. there's
So
no
we have
formal
a
process.
communication program as well, which we will look into and
All
try
right,
to
so-
rectify that for the
I
future.
appreciate you all talking about it. You know, my issue is whether, you know, it's not really the $40, it's that the town should have a process everybody's aware of. You should account for the money that you're taking in and I should understand what it is that the policy is. That's really the reason I wrote to you.
It's one of those things I always say is that we don't know there's a problem until it comes to our attention.
Right, and thank you very much
Because
for
we might-
putting it on the agenda and the applicant speak. Appreciate it.
Well, and, you know, I think give us a little bit of time to figure something out. You know, I'd like to see the records, would like to see if it affects more folks than the two of you, which it probably does. And then what could we do moving forward? And if we can do a credit towards something else in the town, is that something you would consider? You were okay with that?
No. Thank you so much for,
You're welcome.
thank you.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
All right, next up on the agenda is discussion and consideration of a flat fee contract for legal services.
So the town attorney was going to join us for that conversation. He had another meeting tonight. He said he anticipated being done around 8:40 and he was texting me. I haven't gotten his text yet.
Okay,
So
so
maybe we can
make a
skip to
motion to
the,
table that item for now
yeah.
until the town attorney comes.
He'll be here in a few minutes.
All right, so then we have, let's move on to the discussion and consideration of a policy regarding board and committee applications. Take a motion, to open that item.
So moved.
Well, you've done second. So. All right, so Gary Mahler. Gary, are you here?
He is not. He said he would not be a.
So he did ask that his comments be put in for consideration. So he says, I see from the agenda for Tuesday's meeting. And Gary is, by the way, the chair of the budget committee. So I see from the agenda for Tuesday's meeting that they're going to talk about committees. If you do write an instruction for committees, please ensure that the committee, or at least the chair, has a say of who serves on the committee. The select board sees the committee products and doesn't have to work with the members. One appointment can effectively destroy a committee, especially if the new member has an agenda. It's to your and the select board's advantage to have committees that work. The idea of a 2-week advertisement for membership is fine, but what is the selection process? I'm not a real fan of first come, first appointed. Maybe a committee review of the applicants with a recommendation of who they want appointed. You and the board could reject the applicant. You have increased membership on the various committees from my experience by working with the committee chair. That seems to have worked pretty well. The select board has the ability to accept or reject a committee member by a vote. Don't screw up the process.
Where did this come from?
This came from me.
Okay, why?
Because we have more than one person who would like to possibly serve in a vacancy on a committee.
Okay,
So sometimes we don't have that, sometimes we do. So we need to have some sort of a policy in place, once again, that says how long do we advertise the open seat? And what's the selection process for that seat, if there's more than one person that puts in for it?
so we're gonna pick and choose the one you want. Is that what we're doing? If that's the case, I am really gonna raise, you know what?
What was the last part of that, Ricky?
I said, I didn't say it because I was gonna, but I stopped. I said, if this is the case, then I am gonna raise heck about this. This is not right. You know what? Everybody that's gone on to a committee has had 0 experience. Am I right? Why do we pick and choose? I don't agree with that.
How do we pick and choose what, Ricky?
Who are you gonna put on the committee? It
We
doesn't-
always, if we have more than one applicant, like we did for the opening for the school board, then there has to be a selection process. So we don't have a policy in place, but you have more than one person who's put an application. So how long do we accept applications for an opening on a committee? And when you have more than one, who assists in determining that? I mean, I do hear what Gary's saying. And, you know, these are not willy-nilly boards. You know, I don't think we have any in town that really are. But I think if we have more than one, we've got to figure out what our policy is, Rick, and we've got to probably put it in writing, as we just saw, because if we don't have something, then we don't have a plan in place ever.
Whatever. I don't agree with it. That's fine.
So do you think the first person who hears that there's an opening on a committee automatically gets in?
Absolutely. That's what the volunteerism is about. It isn't about who it is, what they are, and all this baloney.
Oh, I don't care about that. I don't care who you are. I'm happy if you're willing to serve.
I believe the first one that puts in for it should get it. That's what we've always done in the past. We always dated them and time stamped them because we've had people come in the same day within minutes of each other in the past.
Yeah.
So that's my take on it. And Bruce has got his hand up.
All right, Bruce.
I'm in agreement to Ricky, and I'm a chair of a committee. I think it should be a first person, first come. I started out on all these committees. I didn't know a thing. You as a select person started out as a select person, didn't know a thing about it. I mean, I read the memo, and some of the memo I was reading say, if you're qualified. I don't get how you considering qualifications. And the school board part of it, that's an elected official. So you guys, that was kind of how that happened. It was perfect how it happened. You guys had to appoint somebody to finish out a term. That's probably the proper way that how you guys handled that. But as far as committees, it should be first come, first serve.
Is that the way it's always been in the past, that the first person who applies to a committee gets?
Yeah, I mean, because that happened to me on the budget committee. I put an application in, I was the second person in, so I didn't get on it first. And then there was another opening that came up, and then I was able to come on, so I was the next one, you know, I redid the application, I was the first one in line. And that's a fair way to do it. That's how it's always been done in our town government. We've had times that you beg people to come on a committee, you can't get anybody to come on, and now you're gonna, oh, I'm in total.
I agree with them when it comes to the committees, possibly boards you could look at, because boards are a little different, like planning board and things like that. They have a little bit more authority.
So the library board doesn't have it. The library board is totally, I mean, the library board is a board of trustees, but it's totally advisory. There's no authority in the library board. So I don't know why that should be any different.
I think committees, it should be whoever, you know, signs up first. It's a learning curve for everybody.
How does someone know if there's an opening? I guess
Right.
that would be my
Right,
question.
how does anyone know?
If you have someone who was like, oh, I know that, I would like to do that, I didn't know there was an opening, or I didn't know it was, you know, first come, first serve. I guess that's my concern on it.
Right, if first come, first serve is a policy, then we need to say when there's that needs to be clearly stated. This is the first I've ever heard that it's first come, first serve.
And the other thing is, I feel like you can't create an opening on a committee or a board and actively have someone to fill that spot before anybody else in town has a chance to know that there's an opening on a board.
That would be my
I think
concern.
that is not the way that should go, and that's why I wanted this to come before the board. Because I feel like if there's an opening on the board, not everyone in town may have known that Carol was on the budget committee. And that when you are on a committee or board in town and you accept and you are elected to a position on the select board, that you give up your seat on that board or committee. So not everyone may have known that, but I feel like you should also have a chance as the town to advertise the fact that there is an opening on, you know, just as we did with the select board. There's a seat opening. We're inviting people to submit their intent to run for this seat. I think that's a fair process. And I think it gives folks in town who may not, know there's an opening on a board or committee, a chance to find out about it, because we promote it on the marquee. We put it on the Facebook page. We put it on the town website. And then folks have a chance to put an application in who may not have considered it before. I think doing it otherwise shoots us in the foot. Because I feel like we're better now about getting information out that when there are openings. And so I feel like if 5 people are interested in that, maybe we didn't do it fabulously in the past, but maybe we need to be doing it more fabulously in the future.
So how are you gonna, I guess, the problem I'm gonna get with this is and this goes back to somebody may pick somebody over, how can I say this, have their own agenda. And, say I wanted, join the library committee, but I have no clue about the library committee, but I'd be interested to go on it. But somebody else applied for it, has all kinds of, education on the library and this and that. So of course, you guys gonna, go for that. So by doing it this way, by doing it, That way, people that want to get educated more into government, get into government more, are never going to have the opportunity ever to do it. I would have never got into it if it had been that way, because nobody would have voted me in,
I vote yeah.
you know, and it's,
It's because I know you.
yeah, it's just, I don't agree with bringing the qualification thing is, I guess, what's got me really fired up. I mean, it's a different, you guys picking, maybe it should go to the committees and the committees, vote on it and then send you guys recommendations, but it should not be over qualifications. It could, I got people on my transfer station committee, when they first started out, they knew nothing, and, it's worked out great. We have a very good working committee. And that's how it works. I mean, when we started the committee, when Ricky started it years ago, none of us knew anything about it, but it worked out great. We saved a ton of money for this town. We do a lot for this town to save money year after year. And that's because you're taking the true citizens from this town and they're getting on the committees, even though, but if you're going to do it with qualifications, you've got to have this education or, to get on the committee. It ain't going to happen. And I can see if you guys change the policy, that's what's going to happen. I can already see it.
I don't see anything about qualifications in this policy.
If we're gonna change it so that it's not first come, first serve, the only thing I'd be willing to is if you have 3 people apply for a committee, you draw straws.
Or it goes to the committee themselves. to
No,
review.
because it depends, if the committee, if certain people on the committee decide they're having an agenda, they may not want that person on there. They may not want the descending voice. I mean, you have people that want to become on the school board because they want to fight the budget going up all the time. The only way to be fair is if you're going to have 3 people apply for a committee, you have an opening and you advertise it for a week. You have 3 people, there's 1 opening, you draw straws.
Yeah.
That way, nobody can say that they're being discriminated against because of their views or anything else.
And it's also opened up for, I don't think, a week. I think that
Well,
they need to advertise.
Whatever it's going to be, I'm just saying.
But where is this policy stated that it's first come, first whoever wants to be on it?
It's been stated, it's just been an unwritten policy that's been that way forever.
It's been the practice.
Practice.
But, yes, but then
And
and
that's like the gold rush or something.
right.
That just seems
And
crazy.
it does feel like if one person would like to create a position on a board,
Right.
that we don't have a policy to do something, to allow anybody else to put in for that.
Right.
And so we do need something. We need something in writing. I like the idea if there's more than one, like how do you pick that fairly?
Yeah, I mean,
know,
you gotta,
the 3
because if
names
not,
I
it becomes an
have,
election.
And you pick one, right? So I think that, maybe that's how we could consider that. But I think we also have to give folks a chance to decide they're willing to serve.
Well, we have to give them a chance to find out. There's an
Right.
opportunity to
Yes,
serve.
yes, they are.
Absolutely.
Not very
Because-
often,
because
because
of-
multiple people wanting to go into a committee.
I mean, wouldn't that be great to have multiple people wanting to go on a committee?
Right, and I'm,
You know, I mean,
and I'm
people-
thankful when they are,
Asking
but I
people.
don't want anyone to have an agenda with which ones they want to be on either and why. Like, we have to be able to open it up to everyone in town. And give folks a chance to step in and serve.
I'm not feeling ready to. vote on
You
the
what,
policy.
Barbara?
I'm not feeling ready to vote on a policy tonight.
No, I think I'd like to muddle it around.
Yeah.
Just, I mean, the other piece to it is if you have people that are, for example, someone going on the library board and that you have someone who's got a lot of experience, the library is most likely going to benefit more from having that experience available as opposed to someone who's brand new, and that person who's brand new does what Bruce does and waits until the next opportunity comes, can go to meetings and see what's happening and sort of get ready for the next opening, and express their concern. I hate to see us make a policy that's going to not allow people that can contribute significantly to a committee because they have whatever that training is.
And experience.
I don't know.
That's what I'm getting at. If you go that route, you go that route, then you're gonna be right in the same boat. That's my whole fear of doing what you guys are trying to do, is you're gonna exclude people out of getting on committees.
And that's not my intention with it, Bruce. My intention is to give the town a chance to let people know there's an opening.
And I'm 100% for that. I mean, the transfer station, I can tell you, had empty seats on it for a year and a half. And it was advertised at town meeting, newsletters. So it got out there. It was on it was on the new the website. It was out there for a year and a half. I mean, there's only a couple committees that really fill up quick. One is the budget committee. And I think the library is one that fills up. I'm not sure. I can't speak on that for sure, but I know the budget committee is one of the ones that fills up quick.
I've seen the resource committee one too.
Yeah, that feels quickly.
And now at this point, I'm like, how many people are we having on that committee? Have we set like a committee limit?
Yeah, I mean,
Because I'm like,
for senior resources.
right, I'm like, is it 20? Like, I don't know.
I mean, if we
Do
have all
a
this,
committee
if we
limit?
have so much interest of people who wanted to serve on committees, what's wrong with making committees a little bit larger? The library board has 7 people. Maybe they could go up to 9.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, that's something to, if we do have a lot of, clamoring of people who want to join committees, let's invite more people to come on board. Right now, I know at least from the library committee that, it's constrained by the library ordinance that it's limited to seven board members.
7 voting members.
7 voting members, right? I mean, anybody can go to any of the meetings and participate, but it's only those 7 people who can vote. But it might be something to look at if we are in a fortunate position that we have,
Right.
a lot of people who want to, more people who want to serve on committees than we have spots for.
Absolutely. The more diverse, the better.
Exactly. I mean, I'd like to see that. What's the limit on, on the number of members for each of the committees? I'm sure we have that.
I don't know. What's the limit on budget?
So there are 6 members of the budget.
There's
It is a little interesting that we don't have like sort of a set number of seats on each committee, like the Parks and Recreation Board has 10. Budget Committee has 6. Planning Board has 5 with 2 alternates, but that may be set by statute as well, since they have some statutory authority. So there's not a lot of consistency in sort of what the set number of committee members are.
Right. I don't know that we need consistency, but we need to look at expanding some of them in order to accommodate citizen interest.
Yeah, perhaps so.
Right. All right, so I think, do we want Anthony to try to draft something that says how long we'll advertise an open position for, how we'll advertise it, and then what the application and what the selection process will be?
Well, this draft policy does have some of that.
Right.
It doesn't talk about, it talks about select persons consider the applications. It doesn't include any input from the committee. So that might be something that we would want to think about if anybody wants input from the committee.
Yeah, we do have that on some of our committees. I mean, the Board of Parks and Recreation likes to weigh in. They like to review the applications before it's forwarded to the select board. Is that the case with the library board as well?
Yeah, I mean, when I was on the library board, we came up with our own, we recruited our, people we thought would be good to be on board. I mean, we weren't mean, I'm sure that was whatever went through whatever process.
So there was some buy-in or input from the board members as far as who other board members.
The library was a tough board for a while, so. We had to pull them out of the woodwork.
That's because you guys are such riffraff.
Yes, I guess I would like to think about this.
I think we need to think more on this one before we go any further. But we can beat this to death.
No, I wasn't looking necessarily for us to adopt one, tonight, but I think having a discussion about it. You know, I feel like we're all, for the most part, on the same thing, that we would like a little bit of time for folks to actually know there's an opening available. Do you not want folks to know, Ricky? Do you not want a time frame?
I don't know anything like that. I've never seen the time when we got people fighting to get into these committees. Unless it change, unless we're going knocking on doors and asking people, because it never has been that way. So I don't know. Something's wrong here.
Maybe something's right. Maybe something's right that we're having more people want to get involved. Maybe we can expand the size of the committees.
I've never got so many phone calls in my life, so tell me everything's good.
All right.
So are we agreeing to table it? Is that-
Yes, so we'll take a motion to table this item to the next meeting. You've done seconded. All those in favor, Ricky?
Yeah, I don't think it even went in place, it never got accepted, did it? Your motion didn't go in.
No, the motion is to table it for the next meeting so that we all have a chance to think about it. It's next week.
I guess so. Yeah, it's fine. Whatever.
All right, Barbara,
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
All right, we're gonna table that to the next one, give us all a chance to think about it and what we'd like to see in a policy if we come up with one. In the meantime, can we advertise that we have an opening on the Board of Parks and Recreation? We have an opening on the Budget Committee. Are there any other boards that we can think of where there's an open seat? Is there one open on the transfer station, or is that a full board at this point?
It's a full board at this point, so I'll work with Mary just to see what the openings are, and we'll put out some information about the openings.
That would be awesome. All right, I see that Phil has been able to join us, so I'll take a motion to go back to discussion and consideration of a flat fee contract for legal services.
Make that motion.
Moved in,
Second.
seconded. All those in favor? Oh, actually, it's open for discussion. Let me just get back to that part, Phil. Phil, are you charging us for tonight, or is this part of our flat fee?
I'm not charging you for tonight, but it would be part of the flat fee if we enter into that kind of arrangement.
So, Anthony, do you want to read your memo, or do you want me to read your memo?
Go ahead, Mel.
All right, so as previously reported to you, Phil Socia, the town's attorney with Bernstein Shaw, and I discussed the possibility of the town and their firm entering into a fixed fee contract for legal services for 2022 as a means of controlling the town's legal costs. The attached contract quotes the cost of $1,000 per month for general services. The Budget Committee has endorsed this approach, believing it is worth trying for 1 year, after which it can be evaluated. The fixed fee does not include litigation, which would still be charged on an hourly basis. The Budget Committee has also endorsed the town budgeting legal fees above the $12,000 contract cost to cover ongoing and new litigation. We will propose splitting that litigation budget between the planning board and general government. Attached is an email exchange between Mr. Socia and me, which he provides details and answers questions. It includes an incorrect dollar figure for the monthly charge that we later corrected. Phil plans to attend the board meeting via Zoom at no cost to the town. Anthony said, I don't think it's gonna cost us. I was like, yeah, I don't know about that. We gotta get clarification. Rockport also has a fixed fee contract with Bernstein Shore for years. Bill Post, now the Saginaw County Administrator, endorsed the agreement, served Rockport well, gave him a phone number to budget and allowed him to contact the firm about any and all of the town's needs. Legal needs. All right, Phil, you're in the hot seat.
Well, thank you. Yeah, and nice to see all of you. Anthony asked me to come in case the board had any questions. This is an arrangement our firm has set up now with, I believe we're up to 5 or 6 municipalities. And it really came out of some thinking we did internally as a firm with some of actually sort of came out of the corporate world, where we realized that a number of our corporate clients, I work with municipalities personally, but some of my colleagues work with corporations, were actually asking for this kind of arrangement, that it was a good budgeting tool for corporations and it was a way to keep costs down. So we started offering it to municipalities, and I think it's been working very well. And I gave Anthony some names of some of the town managers that have been operating under this. The real benefit is it really puts the onus on both sides. So it shows that we have to be efficient because there's a set budget, and some months obviously it will take more time than what it would be if it was a flat fee. So we have to act efficiently, but it also some months it'll be a little bit less. And the idea behind these is that it should work out for both our firm and for the town. And it is always a good idea to look at it 1 year past. And in our experience, sometimes maybe it's a little bit too high, sometimes maybe it's a little too low, but it's a conversation that I typically have with the town manager. Say, here's what the actual would have been. We still keep those numbers. Obviously, we like to track internally for our efficiency purposes. So I'll have a sense of what that would be if we were doing our typical hourly rate. But the real benefit to municipalities and entities is that it's a consistent number. So if there's a big project one month, you won't have a double or 3 times. You'll always know what that bill is. And in the engagement letter, I do summarize what the fixed fee would entail, but shorthand, the way we like to look at it is it essentially deals with everything internal to the town. So day-to-day phone calls, consultations on legal issues that we may get. And, we frequently talk to town managers or clerks or code officers, things like that. So that would all be covered. Or working on ordinances, working on contracts, all that kind of thing you think of internally. It also would include, and this is where the onus comes on us sometimes, is it would include internal board meetings. So planning board, if rare we have to go to planning board meetings, but sometimes we do, and we have it frequently, recently. So that would also still be within the fixed fee. It's a trust system. We won't be able to come to every single one, obviously, because we budgeted this based on the last 5 years of historical use. So, but there will be times that we're asked to go, and this would be included. What's excluded, and we partly because, and this is sort of standard in the industry, is you can't really budget for things like litigation. First, you don't know when there's going to come. You may not have litigation for 4 or 5 years, and then maybe you get a really big case that's takes a lot of resources, and those are just more difficult. So essentially everything outside of the town. So if it's filed in a court, Maine Human Rights Commission, all the different agencies, things like that, that's when we'd go back to the fixed to the hourly rate. So that's the general description. I've really enjoyed working with the town. Really enjoyed working with Anthony since he's come along, and happy to answer any questions about this approach.
So Phil, I have a question.
Yeah.
So if we retain this and say the chair of the select board has a question and needs to contact an attorney from your office, is that covered under this agreement, or is there a point person that's the one person who's allowed to contact and then?
Yeah, it would still count within our fixed fee. Yeah, so those just general day-to-day consultations, those would all still count. In terms of who you should contact, generally there's a policy, and I'm not exactly sure if this is the way Belgrade does it, but typically towns like to have a policy in place where questions to the town's law firm go either through the town manager or the chair of the board. And so that's something you would want to decide internally. I've got some towns that I'm town attorney for where, individual department staff are allowed to directly contact me, that we have that kind of relationship. So it really depends on the town and how you'd like to use our resources. We are really a team, as you know. That's one of the things I think we offer to communities is we have a fairly large department, and so we have some redundancy in case some of us are at meetings or for staffing purposes.
The only question I would have, we've talked about moving our fiscal year to July to June. If we entered into this and then decided we were going to change that year, can we change this contract in such a way so that it would coincide?
Yeah, I don't see why not. Or what we could do is change the date that we check in on it.
Okay.
Right, to see how this is working. What I would propose doing is, if you do agree to move to this system, since we only have, and this is up to you, but we could, to start this year, do a calendar year. Just so we have a full year, so we could say as of January 1st. That's one idea I was thinking about on the way here tonight, so that we could have it, but we could start right away too. We could say December 1st, and we would just use that as the start of the 12-month period that we're going to do a look back on. So it's really up to when you'd like to start it. But I think the start of a month is good, and then we can talk about the fiscal year in terms of adjusting our look back period.
So the total is $12,000, is that correct?
That's right. Yeah.
As I'm concerned, that's a no-brainer. I think we should go with it.
I feel like we should start at January 1st, though, simply because we have the ability in March to backtrack to January for expenses. But our legal budget is already so overrun this year that if we add another 1,000 to that budget this year, it's another 1,000.
I agree with you. January 1st would be great.
You start with the fiscal year, that's what we are now. January 1st, our fiscal year.
Yeah.
Okay, so that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
And what about I guess my only question is, if we're talking about the new subdivision ordinance, is that,
Yeah.
and the moratorium, are those issues that we might want to have looked at before January 1st?
So, good question, Carol, and I've already talked with Bill. He knows that we've got that subdivision ordinance in the queue, and I told him I'd like to turn that over to him on January 1st. But we would need it back before January 19th with the timeline that Eric given. And he said he can do that.
Okay.
Maybe we slip it to you in December, but
Yeah, if you have it before then, I can work on the old arrangement for a month. Yeah.
But I do think that's one of the beauties of this proposal, and I agree, it's worth trying for a year. Let's see if it works for us. Is that when it comes to things like submitting an ordinance or help in writing the ordinance, they're going to be ready access for us.
Yeah.
So then we'll stop paying MMA. I'm just kidding. We're still going to keep them.
As I said, there's a benefit to MMA too. Okay, we like MMA too.
We don't know.
Yeah, and two, anytime we need a legal opinion or we need a contract review, again, covered under this contract.
Right.
I think I like this idea, Phil.
Great.
I bet Bruce does.
You're looking for, I'd make a motion that we try this for a year and see how it works.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none. Carol?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
All right, 5 yeses.
Great. Well, thank you very much for having me.
Thanks for coming. Go hang out with
Okay,
your
great. Thank you. Have a good
family.
evening.
All right, next up on the agenda, we have the consideration of property tax abatements. Yeah. Okay, so we have abatement number, oh, we'll take a motion to open that item. In a second. Carrie, you want to second this one?
Sure.
Okay. All right.
After I get a sugar water.
Now we're in. Okay, so the first abatement is gotta do it a bit differently. Abatement 21-07, Kelly Raymond, map 13, lot 65. This abatement is to correct the assessment of the building. The house is still incomplete. The amount of that abatement is the amount of $292.22. So take a motion. I'll make a motion. How's that?
Second,
All right, moved and seconded. Any further discussion on that abatement? All right, seeing none. Barbara?
Yes.
Rick?
yes.
Yes.
Dan?
No comment.
Oh, Dan is abstaining.
Oh, that's all right.
4, so 4 yeses, 1 abstention. All right, the second abatement is map 8, lot 13, A-2. And the reason for that abatement is this is for Dean and Rebecca Parent, and the lot was sold in 2019. They should not have received a bill for 2019 or 2020. So the amount to abate is, should there be? There should be
It's
two.
$575.21.
I'll make that motion.
But it should be 575.21 twice,
No,
Is
I
there-
accidentally put the same thing in. Well,
because one
No, no,
says
you're right, you're
2020
right.
and one says 2019.
yes, you are correct.
Okay. So abatement 2021-07. No, wow, hold on a second. 2020-07 in the amount of $575.21. So I'll make that motion.
Second.
Isn't it? Are you sure you got the right one? Because there's 2 of them the same, correct?
One is 2020 and the other one's 2019, so on
Okay.
the,
Yep. All right, you're right, you're right. Yes, I'll make that motion.
it's already made, you're just gonna say yes.
Yes,
Okay, Carol,
Yes.
Dan's abstaining. Did I get you on this one, Barbara?
Yes.
Okay.
No, you didn't get me, but yes, I'm voting yes.
4 and 1 abstention. Okay, and the next abatement is 2019-10, map 8, lot 13A-2, in the amount of $575.21. I'll make that motion.
second,
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none. Rick?
yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
Dan is abstaining. Carol?
Yes.
All right, 4 and 1. All right, so next up on the agenda is consideration of a moratorium on the subdivision solar, wind, and telecommunications permit applications. And we're calling a special town meeting for November 16, 2021. Take a motion to open that item.
Motion.
Wait,
All right, moved and seconded. That item is open. So the whole reason for this, folks, is that the moratorium expired on November 5th because the moratorium was designed to go past the election of November, the ballot for November 2nd. The subdivision ordinance was not on that ballot. And thus we need to extend the moratorium to get us to town meeting. But in order to do so, because we missed the deadline, because we didn't meet last week, we're meeting tonight. We actually have to hold a special town meeting for the approval to back that moratorium up to November 5th. So I'll make that motion that we call for a special town meeting at the beginning of the November 16, 2021 select board meeting.
Second.
Moved and seconded.
And what does that entail?
So,
Just a notification?
yeah, so there is a warrant up there that each of you will sign. And there's also the ordinance, which is the same ordinance that we previously passed, just with the dates updated. We will sign those. When this meeting is over with, I will post those on our website out here in our lobby. I'm going to take them to the post offices this evening and post those. We'll start advertising it. at your next meeting, you will start the meeting with a special town meeting. And you will have an open floor discussion of the moratorium for anyone who wants to discuss it. Then we'll have we'll need a moderator here, so I'll contact Jay Bradshaw and see if he might be available. And we will have a vote. Show of hands.
And I believe because it's town meeting, that nobody can participate on Zoom.
That's correct. They can't vote on it.
Right.
You're right.
So this motion.
I-
and second-
Could you guys repeat that? Because like Ricky said, we're having a hard time hearing you, so I didn't hear. Can you participate by voting by Zoom or not?
No, sir, you have to be here in person to vote.
Okay, thank you.
So if you have something that you would like to, if you're an official and you have something that you would like to be presented at town meeting, you can put it in writing, and then that can be entered as part of the record for town meeting.
Okay.
Okay. All right, if there's no further discussion. Carol,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Barbara,
Yes.
Ricky.
Yep.
All right, 5 yeses. All right, next on the agenda, we have warrant number 134 in the amount of $650,910.53. So take a motion to open that.
Second.
Moved in second. This warrant is open for discussion. On page 4, at the bottom, there is a GA case.
Yes,
And there's a person's name. That person is the,
yes, that's correct. This was for some rental assistance.
there was that, I was like, we're not putting
No, no, no,
someone's
no.
name in there. I assumed that was it, but. is it- I don't know. Cleaning deposit refund, sorry, on page 12. I'm going to assume that, so the cleaning deposit when you rent the center for all seasons is held,
That's correct.
and was it inadvertently deposited, so we had to issue a refund, or did we issue a refund because of another reason?
So I think I know the answer, but I'm not gonna guess at it. Andy, are you still there?
Yes, I am.
Do you know the answer to this?
Give me just one moment to find what we're referring to on the paperwork.
So this is a cleaning deposit refund for Terry Thomas.
I believe that is for a resident who rented the community center and gave dropped both checks off at the town office, and the cleaning deposit was accidentally cashed by whoever collected it at the town office.
So that's what I was saying, because I know we generally hold them, so I assumed it had been inadvertently deposited, so we had to issue a refund.
Yep, correct.
Okay, and then my other question, Annie, maybe you can answer this one as well, is you purchased a vacuum and a mop under recreation programs. So did we need to purchase that for whoever we hire for a custodian or weekly cleaning? Or was this because we did the deep clean and we had to provide a specific vacuum and mop for that?
No, I just purchased the vacuum and mop because we did not have a vacuum that was working, nor a mop that did not spread dirt around. And now that the deep clean's done, I'm trying to stay on top of everything. So we just needed those to keep the facility in order.
It wasn't for the deep cleaning, it's for everyday cleaning.
Okay,
Correct.
okay, that's all my questions. That was easy, huh?
I see we're buying plastic for the skating rink again. rink again. Are we straightening this thing out this year so that it actually holds water?
We learned some lessons last year.
And I still wonder why we don't just snowball on the lake,
Me too.
because it's both. Seems like that would make sense, and then it could be for something bigger than toddlers. 'Cause I think last year, the anticipation was that it was going to be an ice rink for everyone.
So you guys will have to educate me, not having grown up in a place where the lakes freeze over. So I've been told that the way that the lakes freeze, it creates ridges and bumps and it's difficult for skating. Is that true or not?
It depends.
Yeah, you have to clear it.
Depends on the weather.
Yeah,
Depends
just
on.
to be clear.
Yeah. The best time to skate when the ice first freezes, but you know, you don't wanna, you don't wanna fall through. But once the first snowfall comes, then if you wanna keep skating, you have to clear an area.
And you just do that with the snow shovel?
Yeah, well, that's what we always do.
Snowball.
Snow shovels or snowboarders. I grew up skating on ponds my whole life.
Yeah, if I can just throw this in as well, I know after last year, the previous director had considered looking into making a larger rink in years to come on the ice and pumping water up from the lake to spray over it once it's, you know, shoveled off, and then it freezes, so it's nice glare ice and it can be large enough for everyone to really enjoy it. So I can say that that is a possibility in the future after we figure out this ice rink this year.
It can be a project to keep the ice clear. Depends on how much snow you have.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's no different than building an ice rink. You still gotta clear the snow, depending on how much snow you get.
That's
You're
true.
right, right.
So snow, it's not gonna.
So if it rains in the wintertime, does that sort of get rid of the snow on the ice and makes for good skating? No?
No, you gotta have it clear for it to work.
Okay.
If you get snow on the ice and it rains,
Oh, it just
you
makes
get slush.
Okay.
Where the top of it'll freeze and then
Yeah.
refreeze, and then it'll be slush underneath. It can be messy.
Anybody else have anything?
Everything looks good to me.
Do you have anything else to?
No.
Rick, did you have anything?
Oh, I wouldn't say too much.
All right, I'll take a motion to approve.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All right, Ricky? Oh, any
Yes.
further discussion? Yes. Barbara?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
All right, 5 yeses, that is. approved. All right, next up, we have the town manager.
Yeah, so I'm, gonna hit on three things real quick. The first thing, I think it's the most important thing, it sort of segues with the moratorium. The planning board met last week and given the short time frame of trying to get something done ahead of a town meeting, they were really focusing their efforts on the commitment to the commercial development review ordinance on decommissioning language. And Dan and I had a chance to have a discussion on Friday. He was.
Rather animated.
Well, I was gonna say adamant that he doesn't want to address this piecemeal. He thinks that we should take our time and do a more comprehensive creation of an amendment to the commercial development review ordinance that doesn't just hit decommissioning of that infrastructure, but includes design and siting issues, which are, you know, fairly complex, but we do have some good templates that we can work from. So
We happen to be talking about that. I said, so right now, if they do the, just the decommissioning and then decide to start working on it, what happens when somebody decides to put a solar farm down here, you know, get the whole land somehow down by Hammond Lumber. And now you get a solar farm when you come into Belgrade. And lo and behold, guess what? We get somebody who wants to put a solar farm in all of a sudden.
Right.
yeah.
So
So anyway, so I'm just looking for some direction from the board. If you want to tell the planning board, listen, we're going to extend this moratorium next week, hopefully. And we want you to take the time to do a full extensive rewrite of or creation of that ordinance versus just focusing on decommissioning.
It does seem to make
That makes
sense.
Okay. All right, good.
I prefer to do it right the first time.
I will relay that to the planning board tomorrow morning. Secondly, we had a budget committee meeting last night. It was productive, and we are ready to engage in a workshop with you guys, budget committee and select board. So maybe just think about the days. I'll reach out to you here at the end of the week that work best for you. Days of the week, times of the day, and we want to do it all in one fell swoop. As we've done the last couple of years on a Sunday, we want to break it up into a couple of evenings. So just think about how that might work best for your schedules.
And how soon would that be?
We'd like to do it probably early December.
I'll just to give you a heads up. December. So you know, I won't be around. December 9th through the 17th. So you got that on.
I'll
I
be
can't,
on,
I'm
I'm not
sorry.
gonna be around those days.
Can you participate remotely?
Probably could if I had to.
Are you sure you want to leave Maine in December?
Normally go on vacation in the spring, but guess what? Being in the legislature, guess what? I don't get to go on vacation then anymore.
So anyway, and then lastly, just to update you guys on the code enforcement officer position. We have an interview scheduled with an internal candidate on Monday, and then after that, I think the interview panel will meet and hopefully come up with a recommendation that we can bring to you guys. Is that a fair assessment, Dan?
Yeah, did we get the application?
Not yet.
Okay, we may not be having the interview. If it doesn't show up, we're not doing the interview.
Right, but we could still hopefully come to some sort of consensus
Yeah.
on who we like to offer the job to.
Yeah, I mean, the two that we've interviewed for.
Yeah.
About equal.
They're viable.
They each have good and bad, good points. and bad points.
So that's my report. The rest of it's, yeah.
The roads committee, is there any spots open on that committee?
I have to double check. I think we may be fully staffed on that, but I have to double check.
I was just, somebody was squawking about the roads in Belgrade.
You'll show them.
On a Facebook thing, so I was like, well, you know, maybe you, if there's an opening, maybe you'd like to be part of the roads committee.
And just a reminder that Thursday's a holiday, Veterans Day, so the town office will be closed.
Except for you, you gotta work.
Say again.
Except for you, you gotta work. Your salary, you don't get holidays.
I don't get to go to Jamaica either.
That's true. All right, so anything else for regular part of the meeting? All right, seeing none, I will take a motion to exit the select board meeting.
So moved.
Second.
So moved and seconded. All those in favor, Ricky?
Yes.
I raise my hand for you. Follow me. Carol,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Barton. All right, 5 yeses. Anyone else who's participating is going to need to exit now because we do have an executive session.